No, I wasn't even watching the timer. I saw it just came up. What is this background song? Let's skip that. There we go. All right. Let's see if everything's working. No, it's not. Oh, it's because I'm an idiot. I forgot to turn this on. There it goes. Still getting used to the multi-stream setup. But what's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. I had a kick me in the teeth Wednesday, but I hope you're having a better one. Let's see. Why is everything just giving me trouble today? There we go. Okay, they're out. Dr. Reiki, what's up, brother? Let's see. I was just prepping some of the stuff I saw that looked interesting in the news. Actually, this one looked really neat. I wanted to check this out. It was a thread a friend sent me earlier today. China's largest cybersecurity firm, KnownSec, was breached, exposing details of China's state cyber operations. So the data includes cyber weapon documentation, internal hacking tool source code, global target list covering over 20 countries, including Japan, Vietnam, and India. Shocker. A spreadsheet lists 80 hacked foreign organizations plus evidence of 95 gigs of stolen Indian immigration data, about 3 terabytes of calls recorded from South Korean mobile operator LGU+. One of the documents mentioned a malicious power bank disguised as a charging device. Yep, I don't ever use a public charging system. I mean, not saying that is a public one, but you see the ones in the airport? No, sir. Dunzos. KnownSec's also a key to China's cybersecurity, providing advanced defense and offensive capabilities, including espionage tools. And so when we saw this picture actually floating around the office, we're like, we need matching uniforms and headphones now. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Let's see. So Zoomeye, this is a global search engine similar to Shodan or Census. It lists vulnerabilities for each host. It claims that it can scan the entire IP address range in 7 to 10 days. Okay, so they rolled their own Shodan. Kind of neat. I wish I spoke Chinese so I could see what this was saying. Let's see. Windows Trojan and remote controller. Let's see. The crack attack. Explanation of how to perform a crack attack on a device connected to a network. What is... Okay, you know what? I remember there being something like that, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, that's the attack for breaking WPA2. Okay. That's kind of funny. What else we got in here? Passive Radar. A tool called Passive Radar, which is a PCAP analyzer, is used to quickly assess... for quick asset mapping tasks, such as those required by military clients. And they got a lot of stuff out of here. Tool that claimed to break email accounts via cross-site scripting. Let's see. KnownSec also provides tools and services for data collection that can be seen in these slides. What do we got here? Who our names are and what fields they're getting. Ooh, interesting. Our record count. Nice. What else did we get out of here? I love digging through data breaches. Slides also indicate collecting data and mapping critical digital infrastructure for adversarial nations. If only I could have the all speak so I could read that. So it's interesting to note that the listing of critical Taiwanese edge devices reports confirm nation-state actors are attacking these devices. Dude, they're attacking everything on the internet. It's not just them. Critical digital infrastructure in India, finance, military, industry, political parties. So this screenshot shows where opportunities exist for companies like KnownSec to add value, including internet surveillance, building command centers, let's see, providing big data and analysis platforms for various departments, or network construction for specific public security bureaus. They're just a full-featured entity, aren't they? Let's see. Building digital command centers for the Ministry of Public Security and how the company supports public security in conducting special investigations. I like that they put special investigations in quotes. And of course, the top comment is bringing the proper question. Any download links available? Unfortunately, the guy blocked me for calling out his lies. Wait, hold on. Here's a link to the docs on here. I mean, interesting little treasure trove, but it's just snapshots. I'd be really interested to see like if the full thing becomes available. Let's see, what is this site? So this is from a Chinese website. So on the morning of November 5th, 2025, several WeChat public accounts in the security field disclosed a piece of news about the Chengyu data leak, which aroused strong concern in the industry. The article mentioned relevant information, also triggered a lot of speculation in the industry. According to Security 419 observation, some related security articles are currently in the deleted invisible state. So a couple pieces of information. The incident did not actually happen currently, but actually happened in 2023 at the time the hackers invaded cloud desktops of individual I think it's actually Chengyu employees through the ODay vulnerability of a third-party cloud desktop provider. Okay, so this isn't recent. This actually happened a little while ago. Still an interesting peek. Anyway, that was just one that came up today I wanted to go check out. Let's see. What were some of the other fun ones I had picked out for tonight? Kind of a slow news cycle right now. But here's one actually I thought might be really relevant, especially considering I'm wrapping up a red team right now and I'm starting a new penetration test on Monday. So I always like to keep an eye out for what's coming down the technology pipeline. Dawn Poner. Advanced Dawn API Analysis Tool. Hold on one sec. Might be why. That would be why. Because I'm a great big smooth brain. I was trying to figure out why the go live notification didn't happen. And it's because I didn't turn on the correct process. That's all right. I'll get this sorted out.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Hey, Gumby, what's up, man? And I'm sitting here trying to figure out, I was like, usually most of the folks are already in right now. That's funny. I love how as soon as I turn on one of the streams, there's always one spammer that comes in there. It's like, I'm good, bro. Anyway, what's up, Gumby? Let's see what this one is. Advanced Don Pappy Analyzer. So this should be this is an advanced penetration testing tool that revolutionizes credential analysis.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby notifications didn't go out.
I know the notifications didn't go out. That's because, so for the current setup, here on my battle station, I have a copy of OBS and a copy of StreamerBot. And then on the streaming computer, I have a copy of OBS and a copy of StreamerBot. And they're each basically delineating different tasks that they do. I forgot to turn on the one on the streaming computer. And that's the one that sends the go live notification out to Discord. And I'm not poopy Gummy, I'm right here. Bunch of spazzes. Yeah, I was sitting here trying to think, I was like, usually most everybody's already in by now. That would explain why. The go live didn't go out. That's all right. Because I don't trust any of the other platforms to do it, so I do it myself. In fact, send that out. Let's go send that out right now. Where is that? Let's go and just send that out right now.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby, so I thought you just had a severe case of the poops.
A sudden case of the poops, no. I did almost have a sudden case of the wuss and outs because we're working as hard and fast as we can to finish up this assessment, and we've been just clawing for every inch of it.
Incoming transmission from Reach Chris Young, I should ban myself from using these biddies.
Nah, y'all are good. If they ever get too annoying, I'll just up the price. I'm not above being annoyed, but it will cost you. I think I still need to go adjust the ducking. I think the attack let-off speed on the background music's too low, but I'll tinker with it later. So yeah, this tool, going through, the first thing I missed about, by the way, before the go live went out, is we were just talking about there was a leak of some interesting information from a Chinese hacking group. Turns out from some of the other sources, though, it really leaked in like 2023. And a lot of it sounded familiar, but I was like, okay, yeah, but this is all kind of standard fare whenever one of these, pseudo paramilitary hacker groups gets compromised. No, it was actually familiar because it did happen in 2023. I remember it. Anyway, so let's take a look at this tool now. Dawn Poner, Advanced Dawn Peppy Analysis and Attack Tool.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby, FYI, if you need someone else to mod for you, I have nothing going until chase season, so I can help if you want.
Dude, I forgot you were a storm chaser. That would be legit. Hang on, how do I do that? I'll have to remember how to do that. There we go. You're a mod, Gumby. Congratulations. By the way, all the mods are script kitties, so congratulations, you're officially a script kitty now. Let's see what we've got here. All right, so Dawn Poner. So what did this thing do? Provide safe password spray attacks with a built-in delay and jitter mechanisms to avoid lockouts, automatic removal, successful authenticated users, credential analysis against secret dumps files. Actually, I'm interested in that part, the analyzing extracted passwords, because I used to do that a lot at my last job. At my current position, we're a lot more restrictive, not out of saying you can't do it. It's just considered we don't usually need it. But and then my clients don't have a strong desire for it. But at my last company, they were actually really interested in what we could do with cracking passwords. So we would go in and dump out all their AD passwords and then run a big giant cracking attack against it. And I'd give them nice statistics about it. But all that was being done with Pipple. And Pipple's kind of a little bit of an old program.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby, I want to get down there to have you came chase with me.
Dude, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because we talked about that, I think... it was a year or two ago. Let's see, because it must have been only about a year, because I've only been streaming for a year and a half. So it couldn't have quite been 2 years ago. But I remember it was during, I think, the last storm season. So probably during last summer. And I remember you telling me that, I was like, yes! Because that'd be awesome. Dude, but I freaking loved Twister as a kid. It's like, Daddy, can I go be a storm chaser? He's like, sure, knock yourself out. When are you going to buy a car? I was like, oh. I was like, I think 12. Oh, was it just a few months ago? Dude, time has been kind of jacked up. It passes so weirdly now. There you go. Practice by wielding your power. Gumby. Hey, Fallon, what's up, man? Gotta stop talking more. Love your content, so thanks. I figured I'd come in out of the hidey hole. Dude, come on in. If you want to lurk... so, don't get me wrong. I love it if everybody's coming in to chat. I get it, though, because usually when I'm watching streams, I'm not super interactive. I'm working on something. I might be editing a video, or I'm doing a little coding. And so, I will pop in and out of the chat, and I get that, and I think that's totally cool if that's what people want to do. Which is why it's kind of dumb that on the Twitch side they're not counting a lot of the lurking views as like active live viewers. I was like, I don't know. They need to get somebody who is actually like a seasoned streamer onto their board that can tell them when they're being absolute dumbasses. You know, I think now that you're a mod, Gumby, I think you can actually do the swear jar. If only Mr. Blaise was going to be working in Delaware this weekend so he could get a photo with someone taller than me. I've never been up to Delaware. But of course I did have to send you that meme about we're in Delaware now. Let's see. I want to see if he... So unfortunately, the one feature I'm most curious in is... I gotta go check something real quick because I see him using DC Sync. I want to go see what this is doing here. What's the requirements? Pretty table requests and PyYAML. That's it? You're not using anything from Impacket? That's actually kind of surprising. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just very surprising. Hold on. I want to take a look at the DC Sync code real quick. Thank you.
It's not full.
That's fine. Let's see. Execute DC Sync. Yeah, so... Load secrets, NT hashes, password. Interesting. Okay, so that's just loading it from the database. Cursor, let's see. That's a load secrets dump, which is not what I wanted. Here we go. I wanted to see what the DC sync command was actually doing. So for the secret dumps user and user NT hashes, in NT hashes, use that. Let's see. So if it matches, then what's he doing? He's actually got like a proper database he's working through in here. Hey, Ratchet, what's going on, man? You guys just abusing the poop counter. So hold on, let me go back, because it looked like, is it just telling you which users would have DC Sync permissions? Match users against secrets dump. Oh, I see what it's doing. Okay. I thought it was actually performing a DC sync, and I was like, I'm very curious how you implemented that without Impacket. I'm not saying you can't do it, it's just Impacket's kind of the de facto go-to. And so, no, what he's doing is you can take it and you can load in the NTDS, and then you could match up your users. And so it's just doing a quick correlation. Okay, I got it. I wanted to see, though, it says it does password analysis. That's what I'm most curious about. But I don't see anything in here about it. Anyway, all right, moving on. Thought that sounded kind of cool. Been busy tracking remediation letters from our last red team op. Darn report was 126 pages. That's a beefy one. One of my coworkers actually just completed a 150-page red team report for one client. Ooh, that was a chunky report. It's chunky. Let's see. This was another one that actually came up that I thought some of y'all might like, especially if you're over in the Maldiv Academy. But the Malficient VM, which is a practice VM for malware development. Not like it's super hard to come up with a VM for deploying this stuff, but it looks kind of neat. It does have some sample challenges in it too, so that's kind of cool. Process injection. Nice. I like that. I'm looking forward to going through the Maldev Academy eventually. Eventually. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was another cool repo that came across the wire. This one I got from the Bad Sector Labs blog. But LLM Goat. I think I've looked at this one. In fact, I think I even referenced it in the blog post. Vulnerable environment with a collection of 10 challenges, each one with the OWASP top 10. If I remember right, let me check the issues. No? Okay, no, this one couldn't have been in the blog post because it looks like it was committed 2 weeks ago. Hold on. Okay, so this isn't the same one I was thinking of. Let's see, what kind of challenges do we have here? Let's see. Obviously, you're going to have an NVIDIA card with some CUDA in it because it's got to be running the language model. Oh, cool, it's all Dockerized. Nice. Run locally. Hold on. What are the... I want to see the challenges. Let me see the challenges. There's no breakdown of the challenges? Rude. Let's see. I want to see what kind you've got in here. Because it says it's challenges based on the OWASP top 10, which would be really interesting because one of those is excessive agency. I was like, okay, what kind of ability are you giving it in there? Let's just go look at the code real quick. So prompt injection, sensitive information disclosure, goat calc, supply chain vulnerability, data modeling poisoning. Nice. Improper output handling, excessive agency. I'm curious about this real quick. So it's got some users in here. Hey Gubby, what's up, man? Does anyone ever watch on YouTube? Yeah, a couple of folks do. They usually come hang in and chill out and lurk. But... And also the news stream, though. The news stream is like the least viewed one. Saturday and Sunday are the most popular days. But I like doing the news stream because it lets me keep my situational awareness of what's going on in the security world. This is the only day I really have like 3 hours, any dedicated time to like going and reading cybersecurity news. The rest of the week, I'm real busy. Let's see. You are a GoatBot, a specialized assistant that keeps track of the goat owners in the region. The user is logged in as user 7. So rules. You may task it to allow the current user to view their own information. If asked about anything else, you should always redirect the conversation back to goats and goat herders. If the user asks for the information, do not answer directly. Instead, use the function getUserInfo user7 to retrieve their data. Interesting. Okay. It's hard to come up with a good excuse, like a good one for like excessive agency, but that's cool that it's got the flag in here. Where's the flag referenced? I wonder how you actually solve the challenges. I think it's a really cool idea, though. I like it. Unfortunately, I think the CTF I was planning to build, I was trying to have it out by Thanksgiving. I don't think it's going to happen because I have been so slammed with this current red team. It was only supposed to be 4 weeks. We extended it to 5 weeks. And I've just been spending every moment I can, spare moment, and busting it so hard that I'm just brain dead at the end of the day. Thanks, Guppy. Yeah, for the YouTube side, though, it does help. But really the only thing that like pushes that towards any kind of like growth and monetization is the actual long form videos. So that's why I'm trying to get back to cutting those videos when I can. I just get so busy. Let's see. All right. Oh, this was from Spider. Nice. Okay, so he's talking about position-independent malware development, which is really cool, and it's something that I'm interested in. I don't fully understand it. Like I said, I'm not well-versed in it. I want to be. Let's see. So this is a small blog post about what I'm going to call modern position-independent implants. Modern in the sense of being easy to write, easy to maintain, flexible, and modular. Nice. Speaking my love language. The modern implants add support for global variables, raw strings, and compile time hashing to position-independent code, which is known to have such limitations as not being able to use global variables and literal strings, besides crafting stack strings. Let's see. So the reflective loader. So first, let's talk about reflective DLL injection and loading. The technique's been around for more than a decade, and it requires a DLL to export a position-independent function, which is normally called the reflective loader. This loader function can be invoked by injecting the DLL into the memory and calling the function so the DLL can load itself. Another way would be prepending the reflective loader to the target, the DLLs we want for the DLL we want to inject. Either way, both techniques achieve the same goal, which is to manually map the DLL into the current process memory. So I'm not going to go into details on how reflective loaders work in this blog post, besides keeping it surface level. A lot of new and old commercial command and control products have their core implant designed as a reflective DLL, as it's easy to develop, stable and easy to maintain since it's just a simple PE file with an export function. Though it means that it follows a very specific and common pattern, which is to find the offset and export reflective loader functions and call it. So the DLL is then going to allocate a new memory region, usually by virtual alloc, and that's really easy to stop, or really easy to detect, or by module stomping. So parse the PE format of itself and then manually map itself into the newly available memory. So here's where I have a problem with the reflective loader design. So while it's extremely fun for me to learn about them years ago and enjoyed working on the weird bits and ways of loading the DLL into memory and executing them, I always noticed how noisy it was to manually map a DLL into memory. So the whole allocates a new memory region per se header, copy section, apply section protections, relocate and table resolving import addresses was just a lot to get a payload running in memory. Yeah, reflective loading is typically pretty straightforward to detect by a lot of modern EDRs. So I began my research into a new method of writing a reflective loader that already has its sections aligned. So this way we don't need to allocate a new memory region, and we just apply relocation, which needs write access, and resolve the import address table and then apply the correct section protections. Cool. This eliminated the need to allocate a new memory region, but still I wasn't satisfied. So I started to think of a new way to completely write implants in such a way that I wouldn't need to rely on a loader stub. So a specific metadata header, like the image int header, or a custom one that keeps needed info like the PE relocations. I don't know if it's actually injection into memory. We'll see what he says here. I'm thinking, I know what the position independent code is. It's code that you could just fire it from anywhere and it will execute, and then I believe should come back to ideally like the same memory address. So another reason why I'm not a fan of reflective loaders is that they leave a lot of data that can be signatured in memory. So if no proper cleanup is being applied or done, then damn, signatures. So either way, talking about the reflective loaders, I switched from using reflective loaders a year ago and started to fully write implants to be position independent. But there were a few things that bothered me or gave me issues. One of them would be having a global variable instance keep track of the configuration, resolved Win32 APIs or loaded modules, and there were edge cases where passing a context struct wasn't possible. Like for example, for COF loading, more specifically loading beacon object files, I needed to find a way to pass the implant instance to the called beacon APIs, like printf and printout, or other beacon APIs that require sending back data from the object file to the server. So there I came up with a solution which allowed me to access my global variable from any location in the implant. Let's get straight to what I call the Stardust design. By the way, this dude is he is so smart, and I think he's like 20 years old. I'm quite literally old enough to be his dad, and he's doing stuff way the hell over my head. So I think this is amazing. I would love to meet him someday. Let's see. So the Stardust design is fairly simple, as all it does is separate certain parts of the code and data into its own sections and pages. The implant overview is pretty much like this. We have a text A section that aligns the stack, gets our entry points, utility functions, base addresses, etc. We have a text B, which is the C entry point, does implant prep, communications, command, and evasion techniques. Then we have our R data, which is literal strings and data, maybe even configuration stuff. We do a page align, basically so that the global section has its own page. And then we have global variables, and then we've got a text E section. So code to get the RIP at the end of the implant. Gotcha. The return pointer. I think that's what RIP is.
Let's see. So this is basically how the implant gets built and going through every single section and planning what it contains and what purpose serves. So we can take a look at a linker script used to separate the sections and align the code correctly. Let's see. So we have our linker base, entry, and then we have our various sections in here. So I see the alignment offset where he's aligning it to a new page. Man, I wish I understood this more. This is so cool. And you might be wondering, I was like, well, why the heck am I reading it if I don't understand it? Because if I don't read it to not understand it, I never will understand it. Let's see. So he said, apologies, basically it's my first time writing a linker script. Dude, it's better than what I could do. So I'm aware there are surely better ways to write this one. This was enough for me to get the design working, but I'm open to any feedback and criticism. Either way, the linker script tells the linker to do the following things at linking time. And that is the section should be in a specific order, including the R data section that contains all the strings and our read-only data. And then tell the linker to align the next section to its own page so we can change the position of the page, which is required for later to have the global variables and save the offset of the global section. Nice. So he's splitting, let me come back up here. So he's got this global section here. He's basically put all of these into one memory page and then put these two into a different memory page, from what I'm understanding. But this is the code to get the rip at the end of the implant. Oh, RIP is, yeah. RIP is the 64 EIP. That's right. So, okay, I get that. I think I see where he's going with this. I think, from my little bit that I'm understanding here. So basically, you've got all the stuff that's going to be doing the work in one section, but you can then pop off this other page into a different area of memory. But you can kind of conglomerate those together. I think that's where he's going with it. Gumby's just over there like, I've got the power. Dun, bum, 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 bum. Let's see. So let's start with the text A section. That's the entry point of our pick implant. So, oh, you had to write it all in assembly, didn't you? All right, I'm going to gloss over that because I haven't done assembly in probably 20 years. Yeah, 20 years, I think. Section contains the code for aligning the stack by 16 bytes, starting with using the Windows calling convention. If not handled, any call to a Win32 might fail or crash due to the stack not being aligned properly. So retrieving the base address for the implant itself and calling the Stardust pre-main entry point, which is located in the text B section, it's going to set up our implant for further execution. Got it. So as previously stated, pre-main is located in that text B section, and it contains the core implant code written in C or C++. Ta-da! Oh, I usually just went through and I finally got like all the songs off the. Well, hold on. I actually got to go back because I got to figure out what that one was called. Back Room. I got to keep calling the background music. Hold on. What is this next one? Never Parted. All right. I do like the awesome collection that Tubob gave me for background music. There's just some in there, like with a lot of the vocals that I'm like, not for background music. You heard the Ring camera notification? Yeah. Dude, actually, I thought I caught a snake on the Ring cam. I was so surprised. And, you know, it's a doorbell camera, right? It's like 3 or 4 feet off the ground. I thought I caught a snake on it. I'm looking at it, and I see it's, because it's up close to the camera, like, I see this slithering brown snake-like object. I'm like, what the? So I go open the door, and I'm like sticking the camera around the edge and like trying to see it, and like I'm looking at the phone, like I don't see anything. And then finally, Sock, who's not a giant chicken, she goes up there and she's like, it's a gecko. There's a gecko on the side of the camera. Little tiny gecko. Hang on one sec, guys. Hey guys, by the way, so Sock just came in to remind me. I didn't know what she wanted, so that's why I turned the camera off. But actually, there's a giant geomagnetic storm going on right now. So tonight, between 8:30 and midnight Central Time, because that's where I'm at, that's the best time to go out and see the aurora. So if you can find some time to get outside the city, go check it out. My coworkers were sending me pictures that they took from Colorado. Bro, the whole freaking night sky was lit up. It looked like Earth was having a rave. I swear, people in his backyard are probably just like, just out there, just killing it. Those pictures looked amazing. I'm slightly jealous. I got to see the aurora last night. Mad jelly, dude. I've never seen the aurora, and it's one of the things I've always wanted to see.
We'll have to try and make a trip up north to try and see it.
What's that?
We'd probably have to try and make a trip up north to try and see it.
Oh, I've resigned myself that I had to go to Alaska if I wanted to go see it. Yeah. I don't know, maybe I could go visit my cousins. I have very distant cousins up in Newfoundland, Canada. And so if I could ever get up there, maybe I can get up there during the time of year when I can go see it. Of course, that's going to be the cold time, I think. Dr. Eggy said we just had an awesome, colorful sunset. Man, I'm jealous. I really do want to go see it. Hey, Cypher, what's up, bro? I love the idea of what Spider's doing here. I kind of get the idea here a little bit. Let me see. So we get the base address to the current implant in memory, and then subtract the implant end address with the start address, so you'll get the size of the implant in the memory. Okay. Let's see. Then we do some cleanup, execute the implant entry point. Boop. So the pre-main function takes care of finding the right base address and the size of the implant memory, and finding the global instance variables which hold the pointer to our instance struct. And we can contain any variable configuration pointers and other data that we want to access during the runtime. So let's look at the pre-main function code line by line. I do, dude. I live in the city, so it's like just light pollution 360 all the way around me. Right? So yeah, I wish I could move outside the city, but it's not really feasible while I'm doing so much to like, I don't want to move further away from my mom right now. So since my dad passed away, I don't want to move any further away from her. And it is kind of convenient because I live actually pretty close to my in-laws, and my kids love going over there. And then my mom is not very far away. It's only about a 30-minute drive. So I can get over there real quick if she needs something. I'm definitely going to go outside after the stream's over to go try and take a look. Let's see. Okay, so let me see what else he's got going here. So the first few lines are there just to prepare some variables like clearing out the Stardust structure, retrieving the process heap handle for the PEB, and process execution block, by the way, and saving it into a variable called heap, since we're going to later be using that. So with that out of the way, we can start right into something important, which is retrieving the base address of the implant memory. So getting the base address is possible with the st rip start function. And it's previously shown in that text A section. So he's going to go get the very base address and then move that over to RSP. Oh, it's used to return it's used to read that return address. Got it. Dude, I just want to see it. I don't care if it's like not big and spectacular because of the light pollution. I would just still like to go see it. Okay, so reason for this is because x86 Matt pointed out that I should get a set compatible by matching each ret with the correct call. Got it. So much I need to finish learning. Let's see. So he's talking about trying to get the end of address. All right, so let me see this global instance. So next few lines, we prepare a global instance by getting the offset of our global section, which is our instance pointer where it's going to be located. So this is talking about, he's trying to get where that, let me scroll up here. There we go. Because see the global, I can't highlight it, but the global right there, global right there. Because it's been page aligned, it's in a different memory page. So there's going to be some kind of an offset to go get over to it. if I remember correctly. I could be just talking about my ass, you know, it's just the way it is. It looks pretty wild, dude. I wish I can go see it right now. Actually, this is pretty cool. So it looks like he did. So the next few lines get us prepared to the global instance by getting the offset to that global section, which is the instance pointer where it's going to be located. That works by getting the offset of the instance for instance offset, and it's a macro that contains the offset instance location, and it can be inserted during linking whenever we specify the linker script. Okay. So we define the insert offset as an external variable along with instance, and that's going to be basically contain our instance offset and our pointer. So after getting the offset to our global instance, we can add the offset to the base address, and we should get the pointer to the instance of the implant. So after we get that pointer in the global structure memory, we can save it to memEdder, which we'll later be going to use to change the protection of the page so we can write our heap pointer into the global space and we'll store our instance data. Nice. Shut up, baby. I don't know it. What's up, Frozen? Man. 20 years old, this guy's killing it. This is just awesome. Let's see. We go down here. So we have an easy to use macro for a hash string, which will get us the hash of the specified string for the loader function to use, since I couldn't be bothered anymore wasting my seconds using Python scripts to hash my function strings and insert them manually. So after resolving the functions, we need to go straight into applying our page read-write protection to the global section. And after cleaning up some of the data from the stack and other stuff with the code, we can now execute the main entry point for our implant, which is going to be our main payload. So that payload will handle resolving other Win32 functions and modules, doing communications, tasking, everything else we want from a nice C2 implant. All right, compile time hashing. I'm curious about this too. So there isn't much to talk about besides that we're using C++ const expressor feature to execute a function at compile time to turn the strings into a DJB2 hash. Actually, not familiar with DJB2 hash. Then again, my knowledge of hash functions, no, not hash functions, but function hashing. There's a little bit different context there. Let's see. It's a non-cryptographic hash function created by Daniel J. Bernstein in 1991, recognized for its simplicity and efficiency, making it a popular choice for generating hash values for strings and applications like hash tables. Got it. Got it. That explains it. By the way, but it says a non-cryptographic hash. What that means is it's not. It might not have things like the avalanche effect, which is in a cryptographic hash. If you change one bit at the beginning of the hashing algorithm, it has a drastic change that pretty much can change like every other bit at the end. A non-cryptographic hash doesn't have that kind of avalanche feature to it. Changing a little bit in the beginning, it usually correlates to a little change at the end. Well, let's see. Was that everything here? There? Yeah. So he's doing some function hashing. So I think everything now is clear. We'll start writing our main payload. So let's keep it simple and try to spawn a message box. And with the file path, and we'll just call it the Stardust message. All we are is Stardust. So let's go over what to consider and how to use the Stardust design for designing position-independent implants. So every function should start with a func macro. We want the func. So as it tells that linker script where to store the function, which in the case telling it to store inside the text B section, and that's the section that's going to be the core component that contains all the C implant function. So the head function should start with Stardust instance if the function requires access to a global instance. Nice. So the macro declares a variable that points to the implant global instance. After specifying the macro, the global instance can be accessed with the instance macro. After writing our main implant payload, we need to just compile it. So the project contains the default makefile, which now only compiles the Stardust project into a 64-bit binary, and I couldn't be bothered for supporting x86. However, it should be fairly to add x86 support as it requires the assembly part to be just rewritten in x86. Got it. Hey, Oni, what's up, brother? Dude, isn't tonight... actually, I'm not sure. Let me see if I can get it to pull up. Oh, this isn't first Wednesday. Okay. So DC 204 was last week. Yeah. I was going to say, I thought it was DC 214 week.
Let's see. Cool. So actually, he's got the project up on GitHub called Stardust. Nice. I'm gonna have to. I'm not signed in. I'm still not signed into GitHub. Damn it. All right. I'll leave that open and mess with it later. Yeah, this week's DC 214. Yeah. Dude, I haven't been to DC 214 in so long. I've been to... Hey, Noiby, what's up, brother? I haven't been to DC 214 in years. And I've been to Dallas Hackers Association more frequently than I go to DC 214, which is wild to think about. Because DC 214 is where I used to just go like every single month. No, without fail. Turbo switch on. Dude, Turbo is actually pretty nice, especially if you like watching a lot of different streamers and you don't want to deal with ads. It's nice. It's very nice. I thought you were pretty close to. Oh, you're talking about doing one up way north. Gotcha. There's also DC 904. That was the one that Philip Wiley started. And so I didn't know he had turned that over. I just learned that last night when I was talking to another buddy. And so there's also DC 904. That's up in Denton. I don't remember exactly how far Denton is from you. Let's see. So reasons. One reason I wrote this blog was mainly that at the time of the writing the blog, Havoc is getting rewritten from scratch. So I'm using this as a template to develop full pick implant without using any reflective loaders. Nice. Dude, so freaking smart. Another reason is I wanted to show a different way of designing malware, and especially writing fully position-independent malware, as they aren't in common so far as I know. Especially position-independent malware that offers features like global instance access, raw strings, and compile time obfuscation. Nice. TLDR. Fuck them reflective loaders. Crack me up, man. Aw, too funny. Oh, that's right. Papa Shell's running it now. Yeah. Too funny. I loved the TLDR. TLDR. F them. Because F them, that's why. Too funny. Oh, yeah. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. Commit Stardust. I just like that commit Stardust. All right. So there was a little bit of interesting news that came up, and that is, and it's really interesting to see this stuff come up, especially in light of everything happening with FFmpeg, right? So if you're not familiar, quick backstory. FFmpeg's Twitter maintainer has just been going off over there, and largely about the idea that people are talking about should you be able to, or not should you be able to, but should you commit security issues to an open source program without a patch? That's what everything kind of boils down to. This whole thing got kicked off by an OpenAI scanner that was designed to go through and find security vulnerabilities in open source software. FFmpeg fell into that category, and it sent this kind of default templated message saying, you have 90 days to remediate this or else we're going to release it. Now, the particular exploit was in a codec that was used, I think, for video games back in the 90s, right? FFmpeg, I think, is trying to, support all these different systems out there. And I don't know how much support FFmpeg gets, but FFmpeg underlines like the entire ecosystem of everything. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here we go. This is the one. Open image in new tab. There we go. Yeah, there it is. So all your favorite sites, FFmpeg. That's it right there. FFmpeg breaks, all these go just like that. Now, that's not to say that, hey, this is the public copy of FFmpeg. I know I don't know if it's for a fact, but what I've been told is outfits like YouTube
they have their own hardened and customized internal fork of FFmpeg that they use, and that's what they compile and that's what they run on. But this is not just for FFmpeg, but a lot of software where this is the primary hitch that's happening. And FFmpeg is not commercial software. It's all free and open source, and it's being maintained by volunteers. So it's interesting to see this coming out in the news cycle now, because what's been happening is there's been a large hubbub about this because this automated scanner came in and basically submitted a vulnerability request. I think it was a use after free bug to FFmpeg and said, by the way, you've got 90 days or we're just going to disclose this. And it was because it was completely automated. And it also did not come with any kind of a remediation patch at all. So it has sparked this entire diatribe and debate with people warring back and forth about, hey, how much responsibilities do volunteers have whenever they're working on open source software? And I think it's really interesting because they specifically said, hey, we're going to start getting a lot more AI slop. And the guys who maintain curl have already said that. They've said, hey, by the way, if you're using an automated vulnerability scanner and you don't have any kind of manual validation to it, we're not even going to accept your security disclosure. We're just going to close it. We're going to ignore it because they got tired of getting so much slop about this. Pornhug's FFmpeg? Wow. Yeah. Did I see DISA 60521? I did not. I'm not sure what that is, Hats. What is it? Yeah. FFmpeg puts the peg in Pornhub. But my Rust is safe. Oh, was that the exploit where it was gosh, what was that? I think I did see it because I watched Low Level Learning's video on it. And it was a bug in Rust, but it was like a business logic bug. It wasn't one that it wasn't like a memory corruption bug. Oh wait, that was a pseudo exploit? No. Let me see. Let's see. Two security issues were discovered in sudo rs, the Rust-based implementation of sudo, which result in local disclosure of partially typed passwords or an authentication bypass in some targeted configurations. Recommend you upgrade your package. For further details on the status, go here. Did they have any more information on it? Let me see. Description. What's this? Resolved issues. Let me see here. Oh, that was the old tar lib. Got it. Yes, that was it. Why does stuff that's worked perfectly well have to be rewritten in Rust? Dude, I don't hate Rust, but I also don't like Rust. And the main reason is because the syntax looks like Python and JavaScript had the ugliest baby imaginable. That's exactly what it looks like. I've tried so many times to like kind of grok Rust, and it's so foreign and so alien. And then there's macros you can put into it where you can define things and make the freaking syntax even more crazy and alien. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. That's funny though. I hate Rust and I hate people who push it and they're all challenged. I will die on this hill. Yeah, I don't hate Rust, but I sure do hate the syntax. I guess that's maybe one and the same here. So, but anyway, it might have been, no, it wasn't Aardvark. It was not OpenAI system. It was Google's Deep Sleep. Deep Sleep. What was it called? FFmpeg. Now, well, everybody kind of jumped on this, like, hey, it's FFmpeg versus Google. And that was actually one of the big things, too. Like, Google, what is Google's market cap? Where are they at right now? I don't know what their market cap is. I want to see. Let me see here. Market cap is $3.465 trillion, which I think is bigger than. I think that would place them at like the 25th largest economy in the world compared to like nations. So, if anybody should have the resources to go through and maybe have triaged this and looked at it and committed some resources to going through and saying, oh yeah, here's the vulnerability, this should be the patch to go fix it, it would have been freaking Google. So Rust looks like Perl or Ruby on Rails. I can't stand Perl syntax either. So I never messed with Ruby on Rails though. It looks like stop rewriting my Linux is telling it safer introducing shit that's unnecessary trash while making a bunch of holes in it. Well, get used to Rust because they're actually going to start implementing Rust in the Windows kernel. They're going to start writing portions in that. So fun times there. Anyway, so Google's got their Deep Sleep project that's running this. And so now we're going to have, I feel really bad for software maintainers. And I get notices about Hackbot from Dependabot up on GitHub saying, hey, you've got vulnerable code in here from this LangChain vulnerability. I'm like, I don't give a damn. This is not the purpose of this. The use case for this is completely different from something that's going to be exposed out to the internet. If you self-pwn, good job. You deserve it. Let's see. So they have Google's Deep Sleep coming in and basically kicking off this entire hubbub about disclosure reports, but without any kind of help for the people that actually need to maintain it. There's a lot of people that just want CVE notches in their belts that are coming in and they're just trying to find security issues in software, which is an important part, but then not being any kind of assistance to help with it. It's not like these are closed sourced projects where they can't go through and actually find the root cause of the security issue. No, they're just, hey, we just want extra security points. Go figure it out, plebs. And I'm kind of on the side of FFmpeg on this because, yeah, these guys do it for fun, essentially. And if they're going to be supported, they deserve to be supported. Their work is obviously vastly used on the internet. So let's go see. I don't have anything on Big Sleep, but OpenAI is jumping on the bandwagon, and then so is also Google also introduced Code Mender, which is a little bit different one. I'm surprised I didn't see this about, but we're going to read over about Aardvark first. So this is OpenAI's agentic security researcher. So today we're announcing Aardvark, an agentic security researcher powered by GPT-5. Software security is one of the most critical and challenging frontiers in technology. Each year, tens of thousands of new vulnerabilities are discovered across enterprise and open source code bases. Defenders face the daunting task of finding and patching vulnerabilities before the adversaries do. At OpenAI, we're working to tip the balance in favor of defenders. I'll be very curious to hear how you do that. So Aardvark represents a breakthrough in AI. They're always a breakthrough. It's never just like, hey, we just made a new thing. You know, it's not like we just poked a hole. No, it's always a breakthrough. Like they're the freaking Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah. Not everything's a breakthrough, man. Let's see. It's an autonomous agent that can help developers and security teams discover and fix vulnerabilities at scale. It's now available for private beta. So Aardvark continuously visualizes source code, continue to analyze the source code, repositories to identify vulnerabilities, assess exploitability, prioritize severity, and propose targeted patches. So Aardvark works by monitoring commits and changes to the code base, identifying vulnerabilities and how they might be exploited, and then proposing fixes. Good, at least it's proposing fixes. Testing those fixes would be interesting. Aardvark does not rely on a traditional program analysis technique like fuzzing or software composition analysis. Instead, it uses a language model-powered reasoning and tool use to understand code behavior and identify the vulnerabilities. Aardvark looks for bugs as a human security researcher might by reading the code, analyzing it, writing and running tests, and using tools and more. So how's writing and running tests any different from fuzzing? Now, granted, fuzzing, usually you're sending mass amounts of data down there, but there is such a thing as targeted fuzzing. Aardvark relies on multi-stage pipeline to identify, explain, and fix vulnerabilities. By the way, I skipped over this because it doesn't really show too much. It shows that basically they're going to monitor the Git repository and they're going to scan the code base and run it through some kind of threat model to a validator sandbox, patch it with Codex, and then send it for human review, is what they're doing. Let's see. So the analysis begins by analyzing the full repository to produce a threat model reflecting its understanding of the project's security objectives and design. It has commit scanning for every commit by inspecting the commit level changes against the entire repository and the threat model as a new code gets committed. And when a repository is first connected, Aardvark will scan its history to identify existing issues. It explains that the vulnerability it finds step-by-step, annotating code for human review. And see, I think this is one of the things that kind of pisses a lot of people off is this part right here. Humans like to build things. Humans also like to break things. Humans don't tend to so much review other stuff people have built. It takes a special kind of person for that. Or to go review other stuff people have broken. A lot of people don't like this. I have personally messed with trying to do different AI video, not AI videos, but different videos on YouTube. And I usually don't even like using a script. I like to just let my thoughts come out and work with it. And when I tried to experiment with writing scripts that way, I realized, like a lot of other people have, it's turning me into a reviewer. It's turning me into an editor, and I don't like that. So I quickly kind of abandoned it. I was like, I don't care if this is the most awesome script in the world. I don't want to go review it. I want to just do things all natural. I already have a plan laid out to move my main system to Linux and virtualize and just in time a few Windows tools if I absolutely need it. Dude, honestly, I was really liking the way Omarchi's set up. I still have my little laptop down here. So I was really excited because Tuesday night I thought I was actually going to get to... No, Monday night. I thought I was actually going to go to bed early and like catch up on sleep. And then my DNS server, it's always DNS, decided, no, bitch, you're going to work on me. And I was up till 1 a.m. fixing the home internet Monday night. So, and the only way I was able to do that actually is because this laptop, which I had to install 0 drivers on to go through and configure, everything worked really well, had the only SD card reader in the house. And so that's what I needed to recover my Raspberry Pi, which runs the DNS server. It's that way for a particular reason, don't at me. Anyway, I really like it. It runs so well. And actually, when I had it connected to all 3 of the monitors here, it worked amazing. So if push comes to shove and I just get really fed up with Windows, this box is going to get blown away and I'm just going to be running Linux. Well, isn't that special? It is special. All right, so let's see here. For validation, once Aardvark has identified a potential vulnerability, it'll attempt to trigger it in an isolated sandbox environment to confirm its exploitability. It describes the steps taken and how to ensure accurate, high quality, and low false positive insights are returned to the users. Patching Aardvark integrates with, for patching, Aardvark integrates with OpenAI's Codex to help fix the vulnerabilities it finds. So it attaches a Codex generated and Aardvark scanned patch for each finding for a human to review. So basically for efficient one-click patching. I'm going to press X to doubt. I really am. Anyway, Aardvark works alongside engineers integrated with GitHub, Codex, and existing workflows to deliver clever, actionable insights without slowing down development. Your developers are going to become 10x developers overnight. While Aardvark's built for security, in our testing, we found that it can uncover bugs such as logic flaws, incomplete fixes, and privacy issues. Aardvark has been in service for several months, running continuously across OpenAI's internal code bases and those of external alpha partners. While OpenAI has surfaced meaningful vulnerabilities to contribute to OpenAI's defensive posture, partners have highlighted the depth of its analysis, with Aardvark finding issues that occur only under complex conditions. And see, that's kind of an interesting thing because there's a lot of preconditions that go into a lot of security issues. And so there's a lot of this. Okay, I'm going to give you my hot take for today, and that is you don't have to patch every single flaw. And here's the reason why. Because the conditions to make that work can be so abstract and so complex and so convoluted, no attacker is ever going to make them happen. the requirements could be you have to have exactly 72 users logged in. Then every single one of those users might need to be submitting a job at the same time. And that job has to contain a Q in the fourth letter. And the moon must be waxing gibbous. And the tide must be at its lowest point for the last 4 months. It gets ridiculous. I'm being hyperbolic, but that really is some of the conditions I've read in exploit disclosures. They're these hyper-specific, tiny little corner cases that in reality will never happen. So when I say under complex conditions, it makes me think, okay, so it found some weird niche corner case that might never, ever be a realistic possibility of happening. It gets even more wild than that, because if you look at web libraries, and a lot of web libraries, especially if you're using a DAST or a SAS scanner on some of those, they'll look at it and it's like, oh, you've got vulnerable libraries. I was like, yes, but the function that is vulnerable is not used. It is never used. There is absolutely zero code path to get to it. Therefore, we don't need to prioritize this. This is not a critical finding. So in benchmark testing on golden repositories, yeah, I bet they're being showered with golden repositories. Aardvark identified 92% of known and synthetically introduced vulnerabilities, demonstrating high recall and real-world effectiveness. Get showered with them golden repos. I need to report I need to report in service days for my Power Automate workflows. My pencil broke at hyperbolic. Go again. Yeah, go. Only 92%. Let's see. Aardvark for open source. So Aardvark has also been applied to open source projects and has discovered that we have responsibly disclosed numerous vulnerabilities, 10 of which received CVE identifiers. I'm curious about, okay, so cool, you've been awarded 10 CVEs. I'm just curious, like, what's the breadth of what they're doing here? Because that number means nothing in context. Because I know guys that when they have looked at particularly trash projects, just one have gotten 5 CVEs, easy. I don't think I've ever seen them get like 10 CVEs, some of my buddies, but I've seen them get a good chunk, because typically when you find one problem in a piece of software, you tend to find others grouped around that same theme in different parts of the source code. So as beneficiaries of decades of open research and responsible disclosure, we're committed. Oh, beneficiaries. I thought they. Never mind. I read that wrong. Let me back this up a bit. I'll back that thing up. As beneficiaries of decades of open research and responsible disclosure, we're committed to giving back, contributing tools, and finding new ways to make the digital ecosystem safer for everyone. So we plan to offer pro bono scanning to select non-commercial open source repositories to contribute to the security of open source software ecosystems. Dude, they ought to reach out to FFmpeg. We recently updated our outbound coordinated disclosure policy, which takes a developer-friendly stance focused on collaboration and scalable impact rather than rigid disclosure timelines that can pressure developers. That's shots fired against Google's Deep Sleep. Shots fired. Because the disclosure guidelines, whenever Deep Sleep went and published the FFmpeg exploit, said, we are going to disclose this in 90 days. There was no, if we don't hear back from you, there was no back and forth provision put in there. It's like, you have 90 days starting now. I just pushed the button. That's shots fired. That's funny. So we anticipate tools like Aardvark will result in the discovery of increasing numbers of bugs, and we want to sustainably collaborate to achieve long-term resilience. So why it matters. We know why it matters. Yes. Private beta is now open. Yeah. So, and then, not to be outdone here, Google DeepMind comes in with their Code Mender, so an AI agent for code security. Actually, I take it back. So OpenAI is following on their tail. So this was October 6th. Aardvark was, this was originally published October 30th. So they're all kind of running neck and neck together with this. Why does the article sound like a marketing pitch? Because it is. CVE is not a reward to receive, is it? Not necessarily, JW. I mean, that's how a lot of people look at it. And I had a buddy that really just kind of collected them for fun. but he also was finding them in closed sourced projects. He was not finding them in open source projects. And he's a damn good coder. So when he would find them in open source, he was like, okay, yeah, here's the exact issue with the bug. And I think this, if he couldn't figure out how to fix it, he would tell him, I think this is how you could fix it, but there's some stuff happening in the code that I can't trace down efficiently. And he would give them at least guidance on how to go through with that. Why is it always sounding like they want to sell me a 15-year-old Chrysler Sebring? Dude, I hadn't thought about Chrysler Sebrings in forever. Yeah, it's a tarp. It is a tarp. Forgot to mention, for that DISA issue, it's fun mostly because it was shipped with the latest Ubuntu. RIP. RIP. Written by bots, for bots, with love. Always with love. Let's see. So for this one, using advanced AI to fix critical software vulnerabilities. So today we're sharing the early results of our research on CodeMender, which is a new AI-powered agent to improve code security automatically. Auto-magically. Software vulnerabilities are notoriously difficult and time-consuming for developers to find and fix, even with traditional and automated methods like fuzzing. So our AI-based efforts like Big Sleep and OSS Fuzz have demonstrated AI's ability to find new zero-day vulnerabilities in well-tested software. So as we achieve more breakthroughs in AI-powered vulnerability discovery, it'll become increasingly difficult for humans alone to keep up. I have so much I want to say about that, and I'm trying to think, can I say it without just dropping a bunch of F-bombs? Anyway. I love how they just keep discounting, like, hey, this is gonna, like, completely BTFO humans. It's like, guys, it's supposed to be an augmentation. It's not supposed to be a race. I don't want anybody being replaced by this stuff. I want this stuff to come in and help me out with other things, right? I want the AI to be doing my laundry, not drawing my paintings. Anyway. CodeMender helps solve this problem by taking a comprehensive approach to code security that's both reactive, instantly patching new vulnerabilities, and proactive, rewriting and securing existing code and eliminating entire classes of vulnerabilities in the process. So over the past 6 months that we've been building CodeMender, we've already upstreamed 72 security fixes to open source projects, including some of the as large as 4.5 million lines of code. Interesting. So by automatically creating and applying high-quality security patches, CodeMender's AI-powered agents help developers maintain focus. Let's see. So CodeMender operates by leveraging the thinking capabilities of recent deep-think models to produce autonomous agents capable of debugging and fixing complex vulnerabilities. So to do that, CodeMender agent is equipped with robust tools that let it reason about code before making changes and automatically validate these changes to make sure they're correct and don't actually cause regressions. I was actually curious about this. I was like, how do we... So part of the problem with security is that a lot of times when you go fix something, you can introduce a new security bug. And sometimes you can reintroduce a security bug that was previously patched. That's called a regression. So let's say there's a bug in a piece of software, and we're going to call it, bug Pikachu. Then let's say, okay, cool, we patched out bug Pikachu, things are fine. But then while working on a different part of the program, bug Pikachu gets reintroduced at a later time. So that's called a regression. But there's also one that doesn't really have a name. It's just introducing a new bug where you're adding new features and you're building things and a new bug kind of becomes available. So I was curious with how they were looking at, okay, how do we build this so that we don't introduce new security vulnerabilities? Let's see. So while large language models are rapidly improving, mistakes in code security can be costly. CodeMender's automatic validation process ensures the code changes are correct across many dimensions by only surfacing for human review high-quality patches that, for example, fix the root cause of the issue, are functionally correct, cause no regressions, and follow style guides. So as part of our research, we also developed new techniques and tools that let CodeMender reason about the code and validate changes more efficiently. So we have advanced program analysis, develop tools based on advanced program analysis that includes static analysis, dynamic analysis, differential testing, fuzzing. Oh, interesting. They're not shying away from fuzzing. OpenAI, where's your fuzzer? And also SMT solvers. So using these tools to systematically scrutinize code patterns to control flows and data flows, it can be used to identify the root cause of the security architectural weakness. And so we also developed a special purpose agents that enable CodeMender to tackle specific aspects of the underlying problem. For example, CodeMender uses a large language model-based critique tool that highlights the differences between the original and modified code in order to verify the purpose changes do not introduce regressions and self-correct as needed. Let's see. What about for fixing these? Hear me out. If we can find 0 days and test the software automatically, maybe it can automatically issue patches, and maybe we can patch and remotely update kernel drivers without human interaction. Maybe we can get crowd control without needing dummy intern. Splendid ideas. Splendid. Splendid. Maybe we can finally get the NVIDIA drivers working on Linux. Let's see, fixing vulnerabilities. So to efficiently patch a vulnerability and prevent it from reemerging, CodeMender uses a debugger, source code browser, and other tools to pinpoint root causes and devise patches. So we added 2 examples of CodeMender patching vulnerabilities in the video carousel below. So the first one is it identified a root cause of a vulnerability. It was reasoning about a CodeMender generated patch and analyzing the results of the debugger output and the code search tool. So although the final patch in this example only changed a few lines of code, the root cause of the vulnerability was not immediately clear. So in this case, the crash report showed a heap buffer overflow, but the actual problem was elsewhere, an incorrect stack management of the XML elements during parsing. It's always XML, man. So in this example, example 2, CodeMender agent was able to come up with a non-trivial patch that deals with a complex object lifetime issue. So the agent was not only able to figure out the root cause of the vulnerability, but also able to modify or completely custom system for generating C code within the project. Ooh, interesting. I tell it. Let's go see what they've got in the little. Can I go to the next one? Let me see. Play. There we go. CodeMender. This is the most boring presentation. You could have just put all this crap in the blog post. Okay, anyway. That was disappointing. My expectations were low and they were still not met. So we designed CodeMender to proactively rewrite existing code to use more secure data structures and APIs. So for example, we deployed CodeMender to apply F-bound safety annotations and start with to parts of a widely used image compression library called libwebp. When F-bound safety annotations were applied, the compiler adds bounds checking to the code to prevent the attacker from exploiting buffer overflows. A few years ago, buffer overflow vulnerability in libwebp was used by a threat actor as part of a zero-click iOS exploit. I remember that. So with the annotations, this vulnerability, along with most of the other buffer overflows of the project, weren't where it wasn't applied, have been rendered unexploitable forever. Forever. So the video carousel, yada, yada, yada. So we have agent's reasoning steps. So the CodeMender agent also is asked to address the following safety bits here. All right. So it automatically corrects the error. Let's see. Hold on. What did it say here? So in this, array subscript on single pointer bit depths must use context index of 0 if in bounds. Let's see. So another of CodeMender's key features is its ability to automatically correct new errors and test failures that arise from its own annotations. So here's one example of an agent recovering from a compilation error. Dude, these carousels are trash, dude. Don't put them in. Just write the text, man. Make these find bones and verified smart contracts. Dude, you're not joking. I saw a funny thing, and I forget who it was, maybe from Solace on Twitter, talking about if you want easy money, just go search for who has a Claude.md in their... crap, what was the coding language for Ethereum? Can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember that. Solidity, yeah. You want to find easy money, just go see who's writing code in Solidity and has a Claude.md. Yeah. Oh, I can't believe I forgot Solidity. Hey, Hydrogen, what's up, man? Let's see. So what else we got here? Anything useful, or is this all more marketing pitch? Let's see. So while our early results with CodeMender are promising, we're taking a cautious approach, focusing on reliability. Currently, all patches generated by CodeMender are reviewed by human researchers before they're submitted upstream. I guess maybe they learned from Big Sleep. CodeMender, are using CodeMender, we've already begun submitting patches to various critical open source libraries, many of which have already accepted and been upstreamed. So we generally, we're gradually ramping up the process to ensure quality and systematically address feedback from open source communities. We'll also be gradually reaching out to interested maintainers of critical open source projects with CodeMender generated patches. So by iterating on the feedback from this process, we hope to release CodeMender as a tool that can be used to allow all software developers to keep their code base secure. Let's see, we'll have a number of techniques and results to share, which we intend to publish as technical papers and reports in the coming months. So it's getting interesting with a lot of the publishing of these AI security bugs that are coming up. Because not security bugs in AI, but AI found security bugs. Because yeah, I know they're taking a lot of effort to try and make sure that these are accurate and they're safe, but also I've seen a lot of stuff where little tiny things sneak in that get missed. Now, in theory, what should happen is when that code gets reanalyzed, in theory, hopefully it should find it. And they've got mitigations in here to try and keep it from introducing new security vulnerabilities. But that's notoriously difficult for human or machine because sometimes there's just interactions you can't trace or don't have the resources to trace. God knows how much this costs to run. Because heck, just one run on Hackbot, we'll spend a couple dollars a night and we're not sending that many tokens at it. Imagine sending the entire code base and then you're iterating over that code base. And then that's just doing it one time. And for a huge code base, that's a lot of cycles that it's going to be burning there. Cycles in terms of compute, because you're going to have to spin up the sandbox. You're going to have to be doing other things. And then cycles in far as like just tokens burned. And it's a language model sufficiently strong enough to do the reasoning about that. So it's cool that they're kind of subsidizing this for some of these open source projects. But at the same time, this isn't going to become just widely, hugely, generally available. And plus, you're going to have the side of everybody who's closed sourced. This is just mostly working on open source projects. So there's still be plenty of bugs to be found in a lot of oddly helpful IT software. A lot of times the ones that are meant to like make IT's life easier, oddly enough, have like the worst security vulnerabilities in them. It's kind of wild. Let's see. I've been experimenting with using Llama CPP to run code generation locally. Nice. I have a connection where I might be able to get access to a system that has like several GPUs in it. And so I want to do some stuff with it, but a lot of the only program I know off the shelf that does that is like Ollama. So I could run some models on there with Ollama, but there's other stuff I want to do. So it might be me spinning up some additional code here in the future to be able to use that, because for the most part, a lot of the other non-Ollama ones, they're designed to run on like a single GPU. So, but I believe using Llama CPP, you can literally tell it, hey, let's figure out how much memory we've got per card, and we're going to put layers, 1 through N in this card, and then N plus 1 to M in this card, and then you can split them up like that. And like I said, the only one I know off the shelf that does it is Ollama, whenever you're running those local models. I've been doing some reverse engineering on EVM bytecode, so smaller code bases for the benefit, and it's an amazing reason to split projects into multiple libs. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why the only special agent for Hackbot I'm planning to integrate in there is the browser agent. That's the only one that's going to live inside Hackbot. All other specialty agents are going to have their own their own repository. Like 007? Yes, exactly. Bond. James Bond. Let's see. Was there anything else? So I did a quick scan of what was up on the Bad Sectors Labs blog. Like I said, short news night tonight. Let me see if I missed anything. Oh, this was just a fun one. You know what? Let's go look at this. So if you're not familiar with JavaScript source maps, what happens is whenever you compile a modern web front end, so if you're using like React, you're using Vue.js, any of those, what happens is they actually start with their own language and then they transpile it to plain Jane vanilla JavaScript to be run in your browser. And if you have an issue in there, there's not a good way to debug that because the code is this just non-human readable mess. So the solution to that was something called source maps. You can take a source map and you can combine it with the source code in the browser and then actually reconstruct the original source code. So it's a key to allow you to take this one-way operation and reverse it and map things back. Pretty cool. The downside is when you ship them in production, because then all the source code is now recoverable. And actually, I had a big debate about this with a coworker several years ago. And because we had found source maps on this bank's website when we were doing this. And he's like, no, I shouldn't report that. Yeah. And he said, I shouldn't report it because I found it in a giant cloud provider when I was testing them. And he's like, no, don't report that. That's stupid. There's no vulnerable code in there. I was like, there's no vulnerable code and nothing critical now. However, I actually showed him that I could reconstruct the code and actually had the confidentiality comment that was not present in the minified code on the website, but it was present in the recovered code from the source map. And I said, look, it says company name, this day, or this year that we're in, confidential code not for release. Well, here it is. I've got all the freaking code. So apparently Apple did the exact same thing. Apple came up and accidentally shipped their source maps out to the internet. And so they've been going on a rampage trying to get those taken down. And I was like, well, good luck, because the internet does not forgive. It does not forget. I got to reboot for my NVIDIA drivers. Good luck. Good luck, sir. We were just talking about NVIDIA drivers. Oh, you're back already. Dude, that was a quick reboot. I never thought I'd say this, but I actually am really enjoying Arch Linux. I'm guessing I finally have enough gray in my beard. Because I really actually do like Omarchy. It works pretty freaking well. Ad in 30 seconds. The ad's actually running right now. I can see it going right now. Anyway, let me see what this is from. So this is the GitHub of DMCAs in here. So are you the copyright holder? Let's see. Yes, I'm authorized to act on behalf of the copyright holder. Are you submitting a revised DMCA notice after this? Let's see. If the original work referenced above is available online, please provide a URL, which was apps. Oh, actually, hold on. So Eric, when he was putting this together, actually provided some context. So when the web version of the Apple App Store was launched recently, it included the JavaScript source maps, making it so you can recover the original source code like we were just talking about. It's commonly used in development, but usually stripped from the production build when the source code is minified. So yeah, when you're actually doing your transpiling, you can tell it, hey, don't generate source maps. And that's what they forgot to do. They forgot to tell it, don't generate the source maps. Or let's say you do want the source maps. That's fine. But in your deployment process, you just tell it, don't copy the source maps to the production web server, and you're Gucci. By the way, if you're ever curious like how that would work, let me see if I can find something real quick. Source map demo page. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm trying to see if I might be able to find a page that I know is using source maps. Because there's actually in Chrome Developer Tools, there's a really easy way to find this. So over here, if you come over to sources, and it doesn't look like this one's using it, but there's actually two ways to find this. So you come over to, let's see. Actually, yes, perfect. This one is using it. Do you see these orange files in here? So these orange files were not original files in here. These are ones that were recovered from the source map. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. So what you'll see at the bottom of this page is you'll see a note to say, hey, here's the source map for this. Those are CSS. Where is it? There it is. It's got to be in the embed here. No, it doesn't have it in here. Maybe I'm misremembering. I forget what color it was in here. But if you actually see this, you'll actually see a ton of different files that show up here. And they're automatically kind of recreated by Chrome from the source maps over here. Boom. So you would see them all. I thought it was the orange files, but I guess not. It's been a while since I ran into a source map. Ew, use Chrome. This is actually Brave, but yes. Envy top is ripping on 535 non-quantized, so I'm running it fast now. Nice. I swear that 535 is generating the weirdest results. It took my prompt and then kept running with the prompt for a while, and then it generates the code. Huh. I haven't messed with 535 too much. I messed with it a tiny bit. But anyway, this is one of those ways you can go through and you can find those source maps in here. See if I can find it. Anyway, I was hoping to find a site that actually might have shipped with the source map so you can find it. But yeah, so it looks like what they're doing is they're publishing DMCA takedowns of all of these different apps or repositories here. Taken down due to DMCA. Oh no. But as he mentions, the internet never forgets. Oh, here we go. There we go. This is what it looks like. So whenever you're looking at the reconstructed JavaScript in here, this is what you'll see. You'll see like this kind of virtual file structure. And you can actually drill into it and see like all the various files. I've seen like full node module directories in here. So the package.json, just about everything you can think of in here, down to the comments. See that? So the comments, and it actually recovered the TypeScript for this. That's awesome. I use Chrome with my burp suite. I prefer Chrome developer tools over any other program's developer tools. Because, I don't know, I just can't stand... I cannot stand Firefox's developer tools anymore. I don't know why. What the hell is this song? The Catch? Take that one off. All right, got that one marked for deletion. Let's see. Ooh, what is this one? Site unseen, enumerating and attacking Active Directory sites. Ooh, let's go take a look at that one. I can't believe I missed that one when I was going. Hey, Synactive. They come up with some good stuff. So Active Directory sites are a feature allowing to optimize network performance and bandwidth usage in AD internal environments. So they're commonly implemented by large geographically dispersed organizations spanning across multiple countries and continents. Yeah, because the idea for sites is technically you can use any domain controller whenever you're working inside of an Active Directory environment or any resource that's available, but it might be more efficient to use a set of resources. So the idea is with sites, you should be able to say, okay, here's the stuff that's in your geographical region. This is the stuff we want you to use because it's the most readily accessible to you, has the least latency, or is the most pertinent to your job, things like that. So sites did not receive much attention from the Active Directory offensive research community, comparable to other ACL-based attack vectors. So this article aims to demonstrate that not only do attack vectors targeting Active Directory sites exist, but that they can lead to impactful privilege escalation scenarios and domain compromises. I do like to compromise a good domain. So we'll describe a pull request that we submitted to the Bloodhound project in order to enumerate site ACL attack paths and how to exploit those projects in an efficient way with the tool that we recently released. This is related to GPO-based exploit vectors. Said compromise scenarios may allow attackers to elevate their privileges as well as move laterally in an AD forest. Nice. That's what she said. Yes. You should just run that use it library through a voice detection. I guess I could. maybe you got an opinion on this. So a project I work on has the ability to integrate not just with Active Directory, but multiple AD systems. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of Active Directory? Not necessarily. It depends on what the integration is and what it's doing. So for example, one of the ones that I think about all the time, and it's because I compromised it and then I took over an entire domain with it, is something like, it was a Cisco VoIP system. Gosh, what was it called? This was a while ago, and I keep thinking SCCM, and I know that's not it. What was it called? Cisco VoIP server. It's an old piece of technology. UCM, that's it. I kept thinking SCCM. I was very close. Cisco UCM. And so the Unified Communications Manager. And a lot of times that would integrate over into Active Directory to help manage phones, and they would store attributes for the user in there, and then that would tell what users authorized to use what phone numbers, things like that. So it depends on what the integration is. The downside is a lot of people would never scope that correctly, and then they'd have these like really privileged accounts set up in UCM. And so I remember one time connecting to the UCM, and after I found the administrator password on their different telephony server, and then I found that account, and then I was able to steal that account, and then just took over the entire domain. Stop with the C word. What, butts? Butts is a C word, isn't it? Oh, Cisco. Cisco is a C word, isn't it? So I gotta run to the bathroom, guys. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Oh, let's see if this recovers now. Not what it's supposed to do. We should not be in the glitchy matrix right now. I forgot. Did I make a note that the Be Right Back screen is jacked up? I guess not. Be right back. Screen busted. See if I can get it to reconnect here. Nope, didn't like that. Why you do this to me? Why you do this? Hang on, let me try. Hold on, I'm still here. I'm just testing something real quick. I'm hoping by switching off that scene and back again, basically, I'm turning it off and on again. If it will refresh the media capture, and then I can stream to it again. You bastard. All right. Let's see. Studio mode. Let's see.
Let me modify this. I got a dirty hack that I could put in place for this.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
You're so full of crap. There we go. So essentially what I have to do is go in and change the port whenever I do that. So I'm going to change the Be Right Back screen. I'm going to probably make it kind of like the OPSEC mode screen. I'm so proud of that. I love that. I love the way that works. It looks so great. So what it does is it pixelates by hexagons, and then it does an analog glitch. All right, I'll turn off OPSEC mode. Let me see. It's pooping time. I'm not pooping. Filling them gamer jugs. Oh, dude. The fact you have that emote jugs is wild. Them gamer jugs. Recovering after the poop. Kind of. I broke it from pooping. No, it wasn't pooping. It was a dirty hack and we need a poop emoji. I will think about it. I will think about it. Bunch of weirdo degenerates. You're lucky or cute. I have only the most important emotes in my roster. A connoisseur of the emotes. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to skip over the intro. Let's go to the Active Directory Sites 101. Let's see. So Active Directory sites are all about networking efficiency and bandwidth usage. So sites are objects to which highly connected subnets are assigned. All the objects that are in these subnets, the computers and the users, are part of the site. So a site associates the resources from the grouped subnets and for two main purposes. For replication in Active Directory, when the changes are applied to a domain controller, they need to replicate to others. Let's see. Actually, there's two types. So there's intra-site replication. So the domain controllers in a particular site will replicate amongst themselves, and there's inter-site replication. I forgot about that. Mostly because I don't ever see anybody using sites all that well. So because the resources in a single site can communicate pretty fast, intra-site replication is performed by default rather than regularly. So an inter-site replication is more demanding network-wise, and the bandwidth is compressed and allows Active Directory administrators to define the replication settings through site links, which is 180 minutes by default. Good to know too, because let's say if the sites aren't really that clear, or I haven't enumerated them. Even I'm thinking about this from like a offensive security perspective, and I make a change to a domain controller. I expect that to replicate, and then typically I'll pick a domain controller, and that becomes my like whipping boy during the assessment. I'm like, I don't know who you, but all of a sudden you're going to get all the flack because I'm just going to stick to you. But if I was to change and like just target a general domain controller at random, this could be a problem, right? I might think my change didn't happen when in actuality it just hasn't replicated because you could have this delay in here. Let's see. So a site should be assigned one or several servers, which is nothing more than a domain controller responsible for that site. The objects that are part of the site will prioritize that domain controller that are configured for it, pretty much. So by default, there exists only one site in a forest, which is the default first site name. So until another one's created, all the objects are automatically assigned to that site, and all replication is performed intra-site. So if an administrator wishes to add another site, it has to be configured, and a site link has to be assigned to it. So a site link allows the replication to take place between those two sites and defines the settings for the replication. So for instance, the replication schedule. And by default, site links are transitive, meaning that if site A is linked to B and site A is linked to C, then B is transitively linked to C. So this is performed via a site bridge, which is created automatically if the transitive attribute of a site link was not explicitly disabled by an administrator. I'm trying to think of what would be a use case for that, like explicitly disabling that. Gumby's like, I have a poop emoji. So note that it's entirely possible to have an orphaned site that, due to a misconfiguration, is not linked with the others. So this may cause this obviously can cause some issues in the environment, as the replication process won't take place, leading to discrepancies between the domain controller's data. So finally, it's important to mention that Active Directory sites are not in any way associated with domain repartitions. So a site may contain clients and domain controllers from various distinct domains of the forest. That's why Active Directory domains handle logical segmentation of the internal network resources, whereas sites constitute the physical geographical representation of the environment. And that's how it was always taught to me. It's like, hey, sites are physical, domains are logical. Let's see, more concretely, sites, subnets, and site links are all LDAP objects located in the configuration naming context that is replicated forest-wide in this particular container, the sites container here. So managing sites can be performed with the GUI. And so why care? Oh god, what did you just send, Gumby? Oh, just a poop emoji. Here's your emoji. Thank you. Thank you, Gumby. So now that the concept behind the sites is a bit clearer, why should we, from an offensive standpoint, care about it, especially if the sites are only used to group objects for network efficiency purposes? But it turns out that it's possible to assign GPOs to Active Directory sites, and the site objects have a GP link attribute describing the GPOs, and all the objects associated with that site will apply. Ooh, I do like some good GPO abuse. This makes sense as some location-specific configurations may need to be applied by sites, like certain firewall rules or browser settings, but this also makes for interesting GPO attack vector opportunities. So if an attacker was somehow able to link a malicious GPO to a site or to poison a GPO already linked to it, they would compromise all the objects in the site, including the domain controllers that are acting as the site servers. Yep, I'm tracking. Compromise one domain controller, you pretty much compromise them all. Several ACL attack paths may enable such a scenario, which is why Active Directory ACL should be considered interesting or even critical for enumerating the environment. So how are they integrating this with Bloodhound? So we observed that consistent with the low popularity of sites in Active Directory offensive research, no tool seems to correctly collect and enumerate site ACLs in order to highlight potential high-impact attack paths. More specifically, the Bloodhound go-to tool for Active Directory attack path enumeration and visualization does not yet include this kind of data. That's true. I've never seen site data talked about in Bloodhound. So although dangerous ACLs affecting sites may not be as frequent as other misconfigurations related to more common object types, it's important to catch them when they exist, due to the high potential impact they can have, which is why we submitted a pull request to Sharphound, which is the basically the collecting agent for Bloodhound, as well as to the Bloodhound project. So these pull requests implement the following features. Collect data about sites, their site servers, and site subnets when enumerating data from Active Directory environments. Nice. Represent site data in the Bloodhound interface by associating each site with a related server and subnet objects. Add sites to the default high-value targets, as control over a site results in the potential compromise of all objects associated within the site. That's a good point. It's like a tiny domain, including at least one domain controller acting as the site server. Oh, okay. So hold on. Let me read this again. So the add sites to the default high-value targets, as control over a site results in a potential compromise of all objects associated with that site, including at least one domain controller acting as the site server. Because yeah, you got to have some kind of domain controller associated to that site. So that makes sense. Create some more control edges for site objects like generic write all and GP link. So as these permissions are exploitable, and integrate GP link edges into the group policy objects to sites in order to enumerate when a GPO affects a site, making control over the GPO more interesting. Very cool. Nice. I gusta. The following screenshot represents a preview of the pull request. Please note that this is only provided for information purposes. The actual implementation will, of course, depend on the pull request review by the Bloodhound team. So if the pull request goes through, both visual representations and implementations may vary. I like that, though. A nail, a muck, a mandul. Excellent. Oh, I like this. So you got a GP link from this GPO to set the wallpaper down to here. So that's a good one. I like that. So exploiting sites GPO style for privilege escalation. So now that the enumeration part's covered, the next section will be concretely describe the different exploitation scenarios that can affect site objects and how to exploit them.
So if you control a GP link to a site, it's pretty much the most straightforward way, and it occurs when a user has any kind of write permissions over a group policy object that's linked to a site. So in that case, said user may inject a malicious configuration into the site link GPO and compromise any or all objects in the site. For the rest of the section, demonstrations will perform the following with the following environment in mind. I swear I can speak. A corporation has an Active Directory forest. It'll be corp.com as the root domain. It has 3 sites. The default first site name for the main offices, as well as a New York and a Sydney site. This is a good example, right? Because you don't know where the default first one is, but New York and Sydney are pretty geographically dispersed. You don't want somebody in New York maybe trying to use a domain controller that's in Sydney, because the latency will just be atrocious. Let's assume that an attacker compromised the above user. Wait, which one's the above user? Did it say? Oh, the a dove user. I read that as above. It's a dove. A dove. The dove of peace. Which has control over the Paraserver Firewall GPO. That GPO is linked to the default first site name, which has one server, which is the DC. And that's a DC for corp.com. Okay. I see where they're going. Got it. So here's the default first site site configuration. It's got one DC in there. And this guy has a generic write over the group policy that is linked to basically everything in the site there. Nice. So that can be exploited by injecting malicious configuration into the GPO and waiting for AD01 DC domain controller to apply it in order to compromise the DC. Let's see. So to do that, group policy backdoor.py tool was recently released and can be used. Let me look at this real quick, because I had to do some group policy attacks earlier this year. I forget how long ago it was. And the tooling was kind of odd, and we actually had to go refactor the tool because it didn't take into account modifying the group policy object. It mostly took into account just smashing the updated code into it. So it was kind of bad. It was kind of bad. Well, let's see. The project wiki describes it in details and how the tool works. It provides command examples. In a nutshell, the configuration that one wishes to inject into the GPO is described by an INI file with various configurations supported, like for different module templates. So we inject in a simple immediate task schedule GPO that adds our controlled above user to the local administrators group. Nice. Notice that we're also targeting AD01, or the number 1 DC. We're going to use the computer name filter for that. And that's what we would do a lot of times, is we would compromise a group policy object, and it's applied to many computers, but we don't want to go compromise every single computer. We want to kind of stay chill, so you can apply that computer name filter and just hit the one server we're interested in. Smashing the code. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with how GPOs are set up, they're defined as XML files, and they live over in, I believe it's in sysvol on the domain. So the sysvol share is on the domain controllers. It exists. It's one of the things that gets replicated amongst the domain controllers. And with that, you can go, if you can modify them, you can do that. I forget which tool we were using. I think it was Sharp GPO. But what it would do is it would just kind of append what we were doing to it, but that breaks the XML formatting. So we actually had to go in and modify it to inject it into the correct spot. It was a big pain in the butt. So I like the idea of this one. Let me see if when was this one released? Last month? So manipulate and exploit GPO attack vectors. Let's see. Documentation. Let's go look at the wiki real quick. Quick usage. Let's see. So if you're in a rush, chances are you simply want to exploit a GPO by injecting a malicious configuration into it. So here is an example of GPO injection command. So here's the GPO inject. So the injected immediate task is described in the immediate task create INI file, which you can provide with several options, and you can use the example for the modules template. Let's see. So here's our module config. So we're doing a scheduled task for a computer. Our task type, we want it to be immediate. We want it to run command. And then in this case, they're just doing who am I, but pretty much any command you can think of, like net user add my user to local administrators, you could do that. And then our filters are, the type is a computer and the value. Okay. Nice. No, it's pretty nice and clean. I like that. It's not too bad. So once you've finished, like say you've got it back, you want to remove the injected configuration from the GPO by running this command. It takes the state folder generated by the previous inject command. Ooh, nice. Very cool. Interesting. One other thing that GPOs have is they have a version tracking number in there. So you might go update the GPO file, but if the version number hasn't changed, then it thinks it's still identical and doesn't ever get pushed out. So on top of modifying the GPO file, you've got to update I don't think it's the same file. I think it's a separate file, if I remember correctly. That once you update that version, then that domain controller says, hey, by the way, I've got a new version of the GPO, and then blast it out to the other domain controllers. Hey, Labricorn. Yeah, sure thing. Here is a link to this blog post we're reading through right now. I just noticed for some reason Kick is not working. Weird, I got it. Yeah, no problem. Let's see. So here's an example they're talking about. So they're going to do a GPO inject. The corp domain, they picked the DC that they want, user and password, and then they're going to pass in that immediate task INI file. Oh, and then they give it the name of the GPO right here. Boop. That's nice though, because by specifying the name here, notice how in here we didn't have the name of the GPO configured. That's actually pretty cool, because then you could kind of keep like a template and then just modify like, oh, by the way, yeah, we just want to target this computer, and then we change which one it is and leave the rest of this the same. I like the way that's split up. That makes it a lot more user friendly. Let's see. All that's left to do is wait for the target domain controller to apply the malicious schedule task from the adov user. I swear they named it adov just to troll people reading this, because I keep reading it as above user, like go reference the user in the previous screenshot. So the domain admin, basically what this will do is the domain admins group for corp.com. Oh, what did they do for this? Where's the INI file? So what they did is a net local group administrators, corp.com adov add. Okay, so they added this adov user to the local admins. That's it. Perfect. That's all you need. And then he goes over GPO clean, which we were just reading about. What about if you've got generic all or write GP links over a site? So the second exploitation scenario happens when you either have a generic all, generic write, or write GP link permissions over a site. So this may happen because of a nested group membership or a configuration mishap that commonly is observed in Active Directory environments. Yeah, they're easy to do and hard to detect. But it can result from a deliberative administrative choice also. So an Active Directory explicitly allows administrators to delegate the ability to manage group policy links for a site. Let's see. So if you have any of those permissions, that'll allow you to do one interesting thing from an attacker standpoint: alter the GP link attribute to the site. So that attribute is an LDAP attribute that indicates which GPO is linked to the container. Let's see. With the ability to modify the GP link value, an attacker may trick the objects linked in the target container into applying a malicious GPO that can be achieved in two ways. First way is pretty straightforward. So if an attacker controls any GPO in the domain, they'd be able to inject a malicious configuration and then link that to the site. Let's see. And that can be performed again by our backdoor user. Let's see. What's the second way? Makes sense. So basically you inject it and then you link it. In the case that an attacker doesn't have control over a GPO, but they still have all those permissions, it can still be abused with limited prerequisites. So the technique involved was first described by Petros Kotrompis. It's a very fancy name. Basically in a great research called OU Having a Laugh. So we'll later build upon the demonstration on how the technique was compromised to the organizational units with limited OU rights. We also released a tool for automating that called OUND. Owned. I'm going to say it's owned. The principle behind the attack is explained in detail in Petros's article. So we're not going to go over it. Basically, what is it? The GPO link points to a DNS name resolving to a machine under the attacker's control. So the GPO link points to a DNS name resolving to a machine the attacker controls. Let me see.
I was hoping he had a demonstration of this down here. So objects associated with the site link. Hold on, did I miss something in here? No, I don't think so. Objects associated with the site link then try to fetch the GPO on the attacker's machine, which would simulate a valid group policy LDAP, as well as a valid group policy template by an SMB share to serve the malicious GPO. So here's a quick demonstration using owned.py. Let's see. So let's assume that the user Acre, these names, has a write GP link permission over the New York site, and which has DC number 2 in it. So own.py takes it a configuration file such as we tell it what the domain is, what the DC is. We give it the container distinguished name, username and password, the IP address where we're going to host the SMB server, and then what module we're going to use, probably the same one that gets used with, what was the other tool we just looked at? The group policy, is that it? Group policy backdoor? Yeah, group policy backdoor. Let's see, target type is a computer, and then IP address of the dummy domain controller that will be acting as an LDAP server. I think that's still us. Well, actually, this could be just any SMB here. Oh, okay, optional. So for use for sanity check, so the hostname of the dummy domain controller. So you're setting up a basically like an impersonated DC in here. We have a GPO ID, which is always some kind of like a UUID style format. It's not quite UUID, but it's like Microsoft's brand of UUID. And see, and then the machine account with the whatever the password is here, this big long honking thing. And with SMB mode, we can embed and forward it depending on the kind of object at target. Got it. Good. Actually, yes, it is technically a GUID. It's not a UUID. It's a GUID. Let's see. So the own.py was recently modified to take an input, or as input, a module file with the same format as group policy backdoor. Said files describe the malicious configuration. Yeah, we already talked about that. So if we launch owned with the defined configuration, owned poisons the GP link attribute on the site, then waits for the object associated with the New York site to update their GPOs. It will only deliver the malicious immediate task to the site's server, which is DC2. Because that's what the reason for that is because that's the machine that we targeted. Let's see, setting up port forwarding. I wonder, actually, hold on. I need to go look at where this was referenced up here, because I think that is... So that's the attacker's IP, the .17, but this .138, it says it's the dummy domain controller. So I wonder what they're using for that. Skip that song. Actually, hold on. What was that song called? Sugar. Okay. Get another one to add to the list. Sugar mix. Let's see. Okay, so it comes through here. Owned actually goes through and does all the attack and basically man in the middles and serves up the new malicious GPO. So if it's successful, you'll see an authentication log of machines retrieving and executing the malicious GPO. Let's see, after about 5 minutes at most, DC2's domain controller attempts to refresh its GPO and will start to apply the malicious one. That'll be exploited via own.py, and that tool simulates a valid GPC as well as a valid GPT and delivers the malicious GPO. Lots of GPs happening here. All right, Hydrogen, have a good night, man. Thanks for stopping in, brother. Let me know how things go. Let me know how things go with the Llama CPP, because I need to actually start messing with that once I get access to this multi-GPU system. Let's see. So hitting Control C when you're done actually triggers cleanup actions, which is good because if you just killed this server outright, you could leave a lot of dangling information there that would not be good. Let's see. So finally, we can verify that user is now a local admin on DC2, basically just by SMB clienting the C user, the C dollar. What about abusing Active Directory for intra-forest lateral movement? So this section describes another interesting attack vector involving Active Directory sites, this time for lateral movement. More specifically, the technique allows an attacker having compromised a domain in a forest to compromise the other domains of the forest, no matter what the SID filtering configuration is. Ooh, nice. So this technique was generally described in extensive research, by Jonas Knudsen. I know him. He's a really, really cool guy. Martin Christensen and Tobias Torp. So the research consisted of 7 articles describing various intra and interforest lateral movement techniques, one of them being extra interesting in part 4. The aim of the section was to try and make this technique more widely known, as well as demonstrate that it can be an exploited pretty practical way by using the group policy backdoor. So what's the theory here? So as previously mentioned in the article, the site-related objects were located in the configuration naming context in LDAP. So a naming context, also called a directory partition, designates a specific part of the central directory with an independent replication scope and scheduling data. I've actually never seen this before. So by default, Active Directory implements 3 distinct partitions. So you have a schema partition. So that's part of the central directory, acts as a blueprint and describes the object that exists in the forest as well as the structure. So this partition is replicated forest-wide, meaning every domain controller in the forest have an identical copy of the schema partition, even if they're from a different domain. Interesting. The replication process ensures that the partition is the same for the whole forest. Then we have a config partition. So this partition primarily holds information related to the network topology and assets related to replication, such as sites. Say, who's been blowing up my phone? Let's see. Oh, every domain controller in a forest have the same version of the configuration partition. The domain partition contains the directory objects, such as the users and computers associated with that local domain. This partition is replicated within a domain, but is not shared with other domains in the forest. Makes sense. Okay. So the interesting point here is that the configuration partition is replicated in the whole forest, and every domain controller from any domain in the forest holds a writable copy of the partition. Oop, there it is. This concretely means that an attacker having compromised any domain in the forest can alter the configuration partition of the forest, which in turn means that said attacker can modify the AD site's configuration. As we just demonstrated throughout the attack, sites can be associated with a group policy object, and as a result, from the domain they compromised, the attacker would be able to link a malicious GPO to one or several sites containing the domain controllers of other domains in the forest. Nice. So upon replication of the configuration naming context, the domain controller of the target domain will apply that malicious GPO. Excellent. Awesome. So to be more specific about the permissions of the configuration partition, the following principals have write access by default. So the domain admins of the forest root domain, enterprise admins, and enterprise domain controller group. And finally, NT authority system local account of any domain controller on which the configuration partition is stored. Well, where were the configuration partitions stored? Primarily holds information related to the network topology and assets related for replication. Same as the schema partition, every domain controller in a forest have the same version of the configuration partition, which is replicated between them. So the domain partition is writable. Is the configuration partition? It's replicated to the whole forest. Every domain controller from every domain in the forest holds a writable copy of the partition. So this is new to me. So I'm wondering if every domain controller has that, and then you go to domain controller in domain A, and then you modify the configuration permission, is it actually replicated to the domain controller over in domain B? It sounds like it is. Note that the described attack vector is not hindered in any way by hardening measures related to SID filtering. Nice. One prerequisite for the attack is that the domain controller that is targeted through the site should have a network connectivity to at least one domain controller of the domain that was compromised. So indeed, the malicious GPO will typically be hosted in a compromised domain. Fetching it thus requires LDAP and SMB traffic from the target domain controller to the compromised one. Right, so you can actually partition off domain controllers like that, but you might have to do a little bit of enumeration to see, do they actually have like network connectivity between them? This prerequisite will be met in the vast majority of cases. Yeah, usually. I've only seen one network personally where they actually partitioned off network-wise 2 different networks. But when they did that, both networks were in the same domain, and meaning that the domain controller in network A and the domain controller in network B had to be able to talk to each other. So when I compromised, they were certain I would not be able to get over into network B. But sure enough, when I compromised domain controller A, I just wrote the PowerShell link between the 2 of them. Basically, it didn't write it. I just set up a remote PowerShell from domain controller A to domain controller B, and then just remote PowerShelled over into the other one. And then that one had its own internet access, so I set up another connection onto it. And then I showed them, hey, look, here's all the critical systems in there I can touch. You want me to do anything? And they're like, nope, please stop. Is that where RODC comes in? I think so. So the idea behind a read-only domain controller is that it should never replicate changes out to the rest of the environment. It should only receive replication updates, right? So that would be a case where, like, yeah, let's say you compromised a read-only domain controller. And if I remember correctly, actually, I think read-only domain controllers will only pull the information they need. I don't believe they don't hold like an entire copy of the NTDS, which is the hashes of every user in the environment. I believe they just hold a certain subset. I don't remember if that's configurable, or they just hold the ones that they're given. So let's say, for example, Bob is in a site and that site only has an RODC, and you've got your site link set up there. Then that RODC, I believe, can, when he wants to log in and authenticate, can go and make a request for that particular piece of information from the other domain controllers that's not an RODC and send it down. I think that's how it works. One of you AD nerds I know will correct me if I'm wrong. I wonder if Reiki's still in here, because he probably knows, and he'll probably be like, well, actually. Let's see. So if the compromised and target domain controllers are in the same site, intra-site replication requires domain controllers to communicate with each other. Yep. Similarly, if the compromised and target domains have domain controllers placed in adjacent sites, that is, sites that are directly linked by a site link, typically at least one of the compromised domain controllers should be reachable by one from the target site. Let's see. The prerequisite may not be met in cases of networks that are not fully routed, for which replication is performed via a transitive site link. It will, however, always be possible to move across site links and compromise sites linked with the target one in order to fully pivot. Nice. Actually, I'm not pooping, Gumby. I'm right here talking about AD. I'm doing my AD, bro. I'm not doing the BM. I'm doing the AD. Let's see. So as often the case with GPO-based attack vectors, articles describing the present technique may not always provide an end-to-end practical demonstration of how it could be exploited. So this section aims to describe how the exploitation can be concretely performed using the group policy backdoor tool. So we'll consider the Active Directory forest whose root domain is corp.com. This domain has a child domain of dev.corp.com, and the only forest has a single site, which is the default first site name, which contains all of the forest assets. So an attacker compromised devcorp.com's child domain and wishes from there to compromise the forest root domain. The dev admin user is controlled by the attacker and the domain administrator on the devcorp.com. Nice. So 2 steps are necessary to carry out the attack. First, a malicious GPO should be created on the compromised domain, one that also injects a malicious configuration into the existing one. And this can be achieved from the GPO create command from group policy backdoor. And here we're going to create that, and we're going to name it lateral. I like as a mod, Gumby can do that multiple times in a stream. Everybody could do it multiple times in a stream. It's just there's a cooldown on it. I think I put like a cooldown of I think 5 minutes between it. I wish I hadn't told you all that because now you nerds are just going to set timers to just spam it every 5 minutes. In fact, down in the Twitch chat, what I used to do is, you know, the little thing where you can click to get channel points. I had just made my own JavaScript, and whenever I joined into a stream, because I lurk a lot, right? I'm not sitting there actively watching the stream. I would just go run my own JavaScript, and it would just sit there and continually click the channel point capture. And I just get all the bonus channel points. I've already got it on a timer. I would be shocked if you didn't. I'm not going to set timers. I've got a bot. All you nerds, I've got a timer. No, I've got a timer. No, I'm Spartacus. Anyway, so once the GPO is created, a malicious configuration can be injected into it. And always, we keep things simple. We're going to inject an immediate task to let the user dev admin for the child domain be at the local admins group. Even if like they were doing like any kind of filtering where it said, hey, you can't, you know, this account can't authenticate over here. There's lots of things you can do. You could literally have it go download and run a C2 agent. You can do lots of stuff with it. Yeah, I can see the timer. I can see it running now. Let's see. So with the malicious GPO ready and we've got ourselves a GUID, the attacker now needs to link the default first name site, or link it to the default first name site. So to do so, it's necessary to execute commands as system on the domain controller. Several options are able to do so. The most straightforward would be to use a scheduled task. While it would, for instance, be possible to use addexec utility from Impacket, this might not be the best solution if an EDR is installed on a target machine. Yeah, by the way, I found out during my recent assessment, there's some EDRs are really good at detecting whenever you proxy in Impacket stuff. And it just freaking blew out my agent. I was like, well, it was a long shot.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
Hey, Slidework!
+1Y_B0RG virus detected in the network.
The Slidework virus is in the network. You know what I had to do? Send the cookies. We send the cookies. Welcome in, Raiders. I saw you on a little bit before I started Slideborg, and I was creeping on your stream watching. Sounds weird when I say that, creeping on stream. I was just watching your stream before I came online, and I was like, I couldn't quite tell what you were doing. So what were you up to tonight? I only got to watch it for like 5 minutes. It looked like you were customizing Linux. You were ricing it out. Let's see. So it was minor creeping. I only popped in for a few minutes. But welcome in, Raiders. For anybody who doesn't know who I am, you're on par. It's fine. My name's Blaise. I've been a penetration tester for 7 years. I do penetration testing and red teaming, usually in Active Directory environments. And Wednesday night's news night. So what we're doing is actually covering some news from Synactive, where they released some really cool group policy abuse for Active Directory. So we're kind of just reading through the blog and checking it out. Oh, you were working on Go code. Okay, I saw a little ASCII gopher up in the corner of the screen, and I thought it was funny. And I was like, but now I realize you were working on Go. That makes sense. Minor creeping makes it sound so much worse. Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? Just a lot worse. Now that I think about it. But yeah, no, I logged in to check something and I saw you were online and I was like, okay, let's go see what Slidework's doing. I got a few minutes. I had a rare, precious few minutes between when I put my kids to bed and then when I started the stream. Because that's usually that's the order of events. It's dinner, kids, bed, stream. Yeah. Hey, Rick, thanks for coming online. Welcome in. Yeah, no, I'm a big time lurker, and I encourage people. It's like, because a couple of folks are like, hey, if someone's not so active in the chat, I was like, dude, it's fine. It's what I do. I hop in, and if something comes up that I think I can supply like useful input to the chat, that's what I do. That's what I do. But most of the time, I'm working on something, and I've got it up so I can just have some good tunes or good vibes coming from the streamer. So anyway, so to catch all up, what we're doing is, and here I'll drop a link for everybody over in the chat. I gotta figure out why this is not. It's not sending out to everybody. That's all right. I already sent it over there, but for some reason the messages aren't going out to Kick. I don't know why. Shadowcat.exe. Thank you for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you're all having a wonderful Wednesday. But yeah, so what we're reading through here is ways to abuse sites in Active Directory. So if you're not familiar, quick recap is if you think of an Active Directory domain as a logical grouping of systems, a site is more like a geographical grouping of systems. And so every site should have its own domain controller, and then every domain controller talks to every other domain controller. So if you have the ability to compromise a site, you have the likely ability to compromise a domain controller, which means you have the likely ability to compromise an entire domain after that, just by compromising that one domain controller, usually through something like a group policy link on that site. And so that's what we've been kind of reading through here in this this blog post. And it's a lot of really cool stuff. I'm actually glad to see they released a couple new tools here. So here, I'll drop links to these as well. So this one's called Group Policy Backdoor. And then there's another one that comes with it called Owned. And these two come in, and what they do is basically they're Python helper scripts to facilitate these attacks. And which is really cool because previously, like Sharp GPO was the other one I would use, and it wasn't all that great. And so I had to use it during one assessment, and it was kind of bunk a little bit. And what I ended up doing with my coworker who I was working on the assessment with is we actually converted Sharp GPO into PowerShell, and then we fixed the PowerShell version to where it wouldn't just clobber the GPO definition in Active Directory. We could actually go through and update it instead of just clobbering it. And it had to do with the way that it was just appending data to it, and GPOs are structured XML files. They live in sysvol, and so if you just go append crap to it, it's not valid XML, and it wouldn't work. So we had to go through and actually get intelligent with it. This is so cool. One of the other things they did is they actually submitted a pull request to this for Bloodhound, and I don't know the status of it. This is when was this written? Let me scroll to the top here. Oh, I'm surprised I didn't see this before, because this actually came out May 11th. So this is an older article, but pretty cool. I don't know the status of the pull request for Bloodhound, but this was kind of like a mock-up of what they did here. So you'd say like, okay, the New York site contains all these different networks in it. So they had kind of mocked it up and they submitted it as a PR to Bloodhound, but I don't know where it went after that. Let's see. Oh, one thing I should be able to do now that the computer's back up. So I had to swap out the CPU. It had died. Here is the offender right here. This old Ryzen. I'm actually thinking about trying to delit it and then letting Agent Zero, my son who just turned 7, I'm thinking about trying to actually delit it and see if we can actually go look with the microscope at all the transistors in it. So, but one thing I should be able to do is I should be able to get the iPad back up so I can actually draw diagrams again, because I miss being able to do my little awesome diagrams. Can I have it? I mean, if you want to do the delitting for me, sure. Because delitting sucks. I've never done it before. I've watched other guys do it, and it's a pain in the butt. Let's see. So here they're just talking about adding that new GPO to it. Excellent. Excellent. This was a really cool one. I like this. By the way, also, let me drop a link to this. So a lot of these news stories that I get come from the Bad Sector Labs blog here. And it's really great. It comes out every Monday. So if you go read it, you're going to be ahead of the stream. But I usually get to it on Wednesdays. Used to do the news streams on Tuesday nights, but I had to move it to Wednesdays. And it's a great blog. It just aggregates so much. What's the coolest hack I've ever gotten to do? Oh. Let me see if I can... I don't know if it was the coolest, but it was my most favorite. And so let me see if I can draw this out a wee bit. Let me grab a paintbrush here. All right, so the way this worked is I was kind of just chilling over here on my laptop, and I'm connected to this company's network. And so I'm sitting here blasting out in map, just checking it. It's a pen test. There's no expectation of stealthiness or whatever. So one of the things I find over there is a nice SolarWinds box. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me go check it. So I can know, and I checked the SolarWinds box, and it has default credentials in it. I was like, okay, cool. So with default creds, what can I do? Well, I start looking there, and they have a credential store. So if you're not familiar with that, SolarWinds' job is supposed to go out and inventory everything in the environment. And okay, pretty cool. So there's two ways there was a way I thought about this. Like, okay, maybe I can go compromise the underlying SolarWinds box and then pull the stuff out of the database. I started doing some research. I realized those credentials are actually encrypted in the database. I don't feel like doing that. So what do? I just make myself an LDAP server. No, correction, I take that back. I did not make myself an LDAP server. I made myself an SSH server. So I downloaded the source code for SSH. I went through and I modified it because by default, it doesn't log passwords to the log. It just logs usernames. So now this one into our log file will do passwords. Well, over here for all these creds, they can be lots of different types. They could be, but they're usually just in a username and password configuration, right? And they're usually defined as they're either for Windows or they're for, what's the other one? They're like Windows or Linux systems in here. So rather than trying to go through and break into the database and decrypt and everything, all I did was I said, hey, by the way, I'm a new machine. Go monitor me. What happens? Oh, I tell it, by the way, just connect to me on SSH and use these creds. And then use these creds. And then use these creds. And then use these creds. So all these creds just got logged down into my SSH log on this system. So every single one of them I got in here, and sure enough, one of them was a domain controller. So first day on site, I find this, it's got default creds, and I just go through and I say, use all of these to log into me as SSH. And then bam, I just logged all their passwords right to a text file. Now what's really bad is this client actually 2 years later, I went back and tested them again, and they had paid somebody to redo this box. And they redid it again with default credentials. They never asked me back to test them again, and I'm pretty sure some folks got fired. And I felt really bad about that. Yeah, it was the same default creds. Yeah. Like I said, they didn't just leave this server up. They blew it away. They hired a consultant to come in and redo it from scratch. And not only did they have default creds on it when they stood it up, but the consultant left the freaking default creds on it whenever he set it up again. And actually, I felt really bad for them because, so for year 2, whenever I did this attack, and then what I did is I used them to go down to the DC. And I went over to the DC and I made myself part of the DA's group. And so after that, I was like, okay, great. I did this probably at like 4:30 in the afternoon. 4:30. And then I was like, done. I'm good. And I left. I come back the next day to the workstation they've set up for me, and my little network switch is gone. It's just, I'm like, I come in, I text my point of contact, like, hey bro, where'd my network switch go? Turns out they had detected me adding myself to the DA group on this box. And when that happened, it set off a major incident. And they went through and started doing incident response. And they tracked it all the way down to the physical switch port where I was. They found that room and thought that was a mini server. And they thought, oh, this is the box that's compromising it. And they unplugged it and they took my switch. So the guy comes over and he explains all this to me, and I was like, no, man, that's just a switch. I did everything from my laptop. But that was actually a really cool detection. They had come so far where year 1, they didn't detect anything. I was completely undetected in the environment. To year 2, detecting the exact same thing I did and tracing it all the way to the physical Switch port that I was connected to and finding it and stealing my Switch. So, yeah, that's why I like whenever I have repeat clients like that, because I like seeing the improvement over time. I really do like seeing it. Also, Mr. Yellow Elf, I forgot to say, thank you for coming online. I heard it as I was going through the little stream. As a noob, that's incredibly cool and impressive. Dude, noob is just a matter of time and experience, pretty much. There's two types of noobs. There's NOOB, which is a perpetual mindset of cannot comprehend something. And you could be a noob at something and never progress past that point and be amazing at something else. It's just a difference of faculties for a person. But then there's also the other kind of noob, NEWB. That's like somebody who is new to the environment and is trying to learn and progress on it. I would say don't call yourself the O version. Call yourself the E version. The noob. You're working on exploring it and progressing in it. I believe you have my Switch. And I said no salt on my Mai Tai. No salt. Hey Bobby, what's up, man? Oh, hello Peaches. No, don't Peaches. You're gonna pull my headphones out. Get down. Get down. Hang on, sweetie. Hang on, guys. Come here, Peaches. Come here, Peaches. Come here. Come here. Come here. There we go. Here she is. Here's Peaches. This is Peaches. She's a Boston Terrier, and she is a lover, not a fighter, and she is an absolute 100% indoor princess. Hello, Peaches. Do you need to go outside? Okay. Hang on one second. Let me go let Peaches outside. I'm not going to do be right back because that breaks stuff until I fix it. I'm going to go OPSEC mode. Then I'll be right back. Hang on one sec. What do you mean again? It was just letting Peaches out. All right, we turn off OPSEC mode. I'm gonna do something like the OPSEC mode for the Be Right Back, so it doesn't break the stream capture from my desktop. Yeah, Labracorn, Peaches is such a sweet dog, and it's funny because I'll be throwing the kids on my bed, like, and they're both boys, so I don't play gentle with them. I hurl them across the room like a freaking shot putter, just Hadouken. And then, but Peaches will like start looking at me and bouncing around like a little bucking bronco, and she's just barking her head off, and I can never tell if she's like, yeah, this is fun, I'm enjoying it, or no, don't hurt the little humans. I can't tell. It can easily cut one way or the other. But she loves the kids, and she's very sweet. And she chirps like a little bird. It's hilarious. If I close the office where she can't get in, she just sits outside the gate and she chirps. She literally goes like it's freaking hilarious. I've never heard a dog make that sound. We love you even when you need to go poop. I'm not pooping, dude. Peaches is outside poop. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Might be fun to look at for the last couple minutes of the stream here. What was this one? Sneaky remap. Ooh. Dr. Ivsky. Ivsky? I love reading the usernames because I'm always like, how do I decode this? Thank you for coming online though. Welcome in. I hope you're all having a wondiferous Wednesday. Let's see. We already talked about LLM Goat earlier in the stream. Oh, Deceptic launched a Canary token service. Ooh, I do like Canary tokens, actually. I'd missed this whenever I first read through this earlier in the day. I was picking out stories. Let me see. Actionable alerts. It's like, I can see text there barely. Let's see. Deploy honey resources and tokens strategically designed to attract adversary engagement and enable proactive detection across your enterprise. Dude, I love these because it's like you've put booby-trapped claymores in your environment. It's just they're delayed. Because the idea, so if you're not familiar with what a honey token is it's something in your environment that should never be accessed, and you know that when it does get accessed, it's a bad guy doing it. So for example, one of the best ones I think people can put in their environment is putting a honey user that's Kerberoastable in an environment. So you know that this user does nothing, is touched by nothing, is used by nothing, but you make it look like a legit user in your Active Directory. And then if a TGS, a ticket granting service ticket, is ever cut for that user, which is what happens when you Kerberoast, then you know that bad things have happened. And it instantly sends up an alert. You have all your telemetry get gathered, and you can pinpoint where it came from. So if it came from a C2 agent, you instantly know, okay, it came from this account or from this user, this machine, and then you zero in on that, you isolate that machine, and you can, if it's like their only foothold, you can evict them out of the system real fast. So I love the idea of honey tokens. It should be Druzy K, but I'm stuck with it for a few more weeks. Gotcha. Yeah. Slightly different from a honeypot, though, Labricorn. So a honeypot would typically be, at least in my mind, I make a distinction between them. A honeypot is a system that is designed not to be interacted with, and when it is interacted with, then it gets triggered. Like a full-blown system, like maybe something running SSH, or something even running like a web server, anything like that that you want to make it look attractive to an attacker. So it's a full system that does it. A honey token is one that once that token gets read or accessed or triggered in some way, then it sends up the alert. So slight difference. I'm probably splitting hairs, but essentially the same thing. A system that never should be interacted with, and when it is, it's a high alert matter. Pronounced Druski. I like it. Druska 3. Yeah. I do like Thinkist Canaries also. Yeah. Do you guys know why Tigger takes so long in the bathroom? Because he's taking a poo. I was thinking about how to do this on a hardware level a while ago. Dude, I don't even know how you would do that on a hardware level. That'd be wild. But Thinkist is usually the big one in the game now. So just to see someone else come out with a different variant, I like, because I'm a firm believer that competition is a good thing. And so as much as I like Thinkist Canaries, I think that having someone else providing a similar service is a good thing. I see about putting rubber ducky on random cereal. Nice. Cool. I like the idea here. So nothing interesting. I mean, nothing really to like read through here. It's just that Deceptic has doing now. I'm actually not familiar with this group. What are they? Deception Engineering Research Hub.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby. What does that have to do with how much peanut butter you can fit in an elephant's ear with a popsicle stick?
Well,
Caution. A virus has been detected.
The Shy Hat virus detected in the network.
it's just a raiding night. Shy Hat, what's up, man? Welcome in, Raiders. Oh, I know everybody. It's so funny because usually by the time I sign off, which unfortunately, welcome in Raiders. There's only about 12 minutes left in the stream, but I love all y'all anyway. Thanks for coming in. For let's see, hip hop heck, hip hop heck. Let's see. You know, I'm not sure if the did the SO command work? Did it actually send the shout out? I don't know if it did. Hang on one second. Let me go ahead and get that real quick. Now that I think about it. There we go. There it goes. Now, okay, Gumby, I'll set that up for you. Because I don't think I set it up over in Nightbot. And so since you're actually modding now, I'll do that. But welcome here. Shahad, I know you probably got to run, man. What are you working on? He's like, I'm already gone, bro. I already got some food. I don't blame you. All right, dude. Have a good night, man. Let's see. So for devices with the USB JTAG integrated like an ESP32, it's a more realistic, as you can put the USB keyboard peripheral alone in the programming interface. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I missed a message in here. Because we were talking about honey tokens, everybody who just came in. So Deceptic just launched their own honey token service, kind of like Thinkest Canaries. But I was saying one thing I like is I like competition. So even if they're doing the exact same thing, I like having a separate, disparate provider. What happens when you put all your eggs in one basket? US East 1 in AWS. That's what you get. I had the most ridiculous story about US East 1, by the way. So on the current assessment I'm on, I was trying to crack some hashes. And typically when I do that, standard operating procedure is I go spin up a large instance in AWS that has 4 GPUs. That's standard operating procedure. I did that, but I needed to go get some word list and rule list together because I haven't cracked anything in a bit. So I built the instance, made sure it was working, configured it, and then I shut it down because it cost $12 an hour. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll go gather up my word list and stuff, and I'll do that. Come back later, try to spin it up, and US East 1 is like, sorry, we have resource contention. I was like, great. Well, in a moment of what's the most ridiculous thing I could do, I decided that the only options I had were to delete it and pray I could go make a new one, or I could actually change the instance size. Like, okay, do I downscale this? Or then I was so pissed off, I was like, I'm going to make it twice as big. I'm going to do it even harder now. For some reason, the system that needed 4 GPUs would not boot. And it said, we have a resource contention. But the system with 8 GPUs would. Freaking just Amazon things. Freaking Amazon. I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, we were talking about honey tokens. That's right. Hey, Void! Having poppin' Sept shells. What's up, man? Oh, too funny. The US East thing was bound to happen at some point. It was because, from what it was explained to me, is that US East 1 is kind of like the template for the other availability zones, or the other regions in Amazon. So when US East 1 goes down, it actually badly affects the other ones as well, if I understand correctly. So for all they're talking about, hey, we've got all this redundancy, there's actually quite a bit of crossover, and there's a contention, a bottleneck for US East 1. Actually, let me take a look at this real quick, because I routinely have to mess with scheduled tasks, and since we've been hating on Rust so much, don't get me wrong, I think Rust is a cool idea. I just think the syntax is abhorrent. It looks like Python and JavaScript had the world's ugliest programming baby. That's what it looks like. Is this a Windows command line utility for creating and executing scheduled tasks with session-specific controls? Okay. I mean, kind of neat. Except I might use this on something like a penetration test, but I wouldn't use this on a red team because the way it's compiled, you'd have to do I don't think you could do inline PE execution with it. Also, that's the first one they suggest you use rather than using the one everybody will choose for setting things up. Yeah, everything defaults to US East 1. And so I actually tried. I was like, okay, maybe US East 1 is just is too damn tied up right now. Maybe I could go spin it up in US West 1 or even US East 2. And the build failed. I couldn't go build that machine on US East 2 or US West 1. It's like, we don't have the stuff, bro. I was like, then why was it even an option for me to click on? Freaking AWS. Anything special in this? Not particularly. I mean, I don't know why you call it Phantom Task. I don't know if there's anything particularly phantomy about this. Windows command line utility for creating and executing scheduled tasks with specific session-specific control. Leverages Windows Task Scheduler API to create tasks that run in specific user sessions with elevated privileges. Okay, Phantom Task is kind of a weird name for it because you're not doing anything phantomy with it. It's not like you're hiding the scheduled task. Anyway. Let me see what else we've got in here. I think I covered everything else from the news for today. It was kind of a slow news week. Actually, this one sounded kind of cool. Incus OS. So it's a community fork of LXC container managers, and its dedicated OS is a cool addition. I think the idea here is this dedicated OS, I don't think it's meant to be like an end user machine. So general availability of Incus OS. A modern immutable OS image that's specifically designed to run Incus. So it provides atomic updates through AB update mechanisms, and it enforces boot security through UEFI and TPM 2.0. Speaking of TPM, I'll tell you one good thing that came out of all the trouble that I had to do with my computer last week is that this computer has had a TPM 2.0 module since it came out, but the firmware never fully supported it. So I guess one good thing that's come out of all the big push to Windows 11 is that it finally got MSI off their butts and they fixed the firmware, because I tried everything when the computer went down. And part of that was even updating the firmware on the motherboard. And now the TPM chip actually works. So yay. Let's see. So under the hood, this is a minimal Debian 13 based. It's using Zably builds for both Linux kernel ZFS and Incus. Latest. What are they doing with it though? I guess it's just a chopped down, basically like a host to run your containers. I mean, not a bad thing to have, especially if you're doing a lot of container-based workloads. Anyway, I ended up concluding the simplest way of messing with someone trying to reverse your hardware would be to write a small fake terminal emulator that leads to nowhere and just prints out some preset text blobs. It'd make the people waste hours. That's beautiful. I love that idea. Let's see. I'm trying to just see if there's anything else we might want to cover before we wrap up the stream. Although it is kind of, it's getting towards the end of the stream now. Now that US East 1's been exposed as a single point of failure, I expect to be more aggressively attacked and brought down more often. Maybe. I mean, there's people that have tried to DDoS Amazon, and Amazon is such a monolith. It's just like, yeah, cool story, bro. Is there anything from last week that I missed? I kind of want to go over one more thing here. Dude, .com is 40 years old. I am barely older than it. Dang. Underlay copy. What is this? PowerShell toolkit that extracts locked Windows files using MFT parsing and raw disk reads. Ooh. Interesting. It's as old as me. Dude, I can't believe that it's that old. When are we moving to IPv6? Never. Never. Everybody is doing everything in their power to not use IPv6. And I don't blame them because it's just atrocious. It's such a pain in the butt to use. I get all the extra functionality and the additional benefits you get from it, but you're going to have an entire generation that doesn't have IPv4 to get people to actually adopt IPv6. So you're probably talking about another 20 years for that to happen. Dude, my beard has been turning white for a long time now. I purposely disable IPv6 on all the systems in my house. I'm like, just don't use it. No, we're just gonna stick to IP4. IPv6 is perfect for exactly one thing: the linked local zero config data acquisition. That's it. IPv4 is better. We'll teach the future never to let them move to IPv6. That's right. IPv6 it's neat. What they should have done though is they seriously overcomplicated IPv6. You didn't need to have 17 IP addresses for IPv6. If you really wanted to make stuff globally addressable, they literally should have just taken what they had from IPv4 and expanded it from 32 bits to 128 bits, and then it would have been fine. It would have been fine. But no, they're like, let's add site local, let's add link local, let's add all this other crap so you can have fucking 17 IP addresses on your NIC. I see it mostly in mobile networks. It makes sense in mobile networks for one reason, Sick. It's because no end user is usually going to be interacting with it there, right? For something a human needs to go set up, it's such a pain in the butt. Yeah, I know. I'm a potty mouth. I'm working on it. 10 more swears and we'll have to go make a donation to charity. Anyway. Sure enough, we're the last ones on. So this is what I was laughing about also whenever Shy Hat and when Shy Hat and Slyborg raided in, I was like, everybody, like all these responsible hackers that go to bed on time, and I'm like, we're usually the ones that are up the latest. There you go. I got Slyborg's shout out there. By the way, guys, let me also send y'all this link real quick. So over here in, hey Frozen, what's up, man? If you like this kind of stream material and you haven't seen it, InfoSec Streams is a really great place to come, like, find people. And there's usually a lot of people on during the day. Some reason, we're the only ones on at night. It's 6:01 in the morning here. Dude. Fucking time zones, how do they work? I do it. As much as I would love to stay on and hang out with y'all, especially since I know, since Shy Hat just raided over, so I apologize. I'm gonna punch y'all off to someone else. I have 2 days left to finish pwning this environment after a very hard fought set of criteria that we had to go through. So that was, unfortunately, I've got to go to bed on time tonight. And then I forget what happened last night. Something happened last night and I couldn't go to bed on time. There's always like some freaking emergency that happens around 10:30 at night that breaks everything. Let's go see who's online. If anybody has a rating suggestion, by the way, shout them out. And we'll go over on the Twitch side. We'll go right over to them. Let's see. Computer booter's on. Oh, hey, 44. I'm glad you're on, man. I understand, dude. I understand people coming in and lurking. That's why I don't get why Twitch is... I get why they're trying to come in and, like, discount people who are lurking. At the same time, though, that's a lot of what happens on Twitch. It's just how it rolls, man.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Love you long time. See you next time. Don't forget to push it real good to he.
We didn't do any code. There's no code to push tonight, goofball. Let's see. Computer booters on. Let me see who else is on right now that we might be able to go read over to. Let's see who's over in software and game dev tonight. Let's see. Shindig and Adam are on. Let's see. Zed Shaw is on also. Not sure who's else doing anything. Check out Danny Stern. All right, let's go look at him. Let's see.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. That wasn't the push it real good I was talking about he.
What's Danny Stern working on?
And then each row. So this row is 18 to 24. This one's 25 to 29. 30 to 34.
I know. We're gonna be able to rate it.
Oh, so you set up parameters for it? Yeah!
I gotta finish setting up some of the audio on the system, but all right, we'll start the. We're gonna raid over to Danny Stem. By the way, when y'all get over there, do me a favor, drop some active planets and some cookie monsters if you have them. There we go. Yep. Unfortunately, that's where I've got to wrap it up, y'all. I would love to stay later and go over some more shenanigans, but I have to do some major ponage tomorrow at work. Yeah. Slideborg, thanks for the raid again. You have a good night too. Everyone, tomorrow is not the end of the week. We are still in crushing it mode, so I want you to continue. Go in there and Hulk smash the rest of this week, except for Friday. Friday is read-only Friday, but that doesn't mean it's take it easy Friday. That means you're preparing to crush it for the coming Monday. So I want you all to get all there. Everyone get out there, get after it. Gotta get up, get down. I don't know what 6-7 means, but I do know what 3-6-9 means. And this week is going to be a fine week. I want all y'all to get out there, have a good rest of your week, finish strong, and remember one very important thing, and that is I love you. Saint of Voice, thanks for coming online. Welcome in at the end of the night. Everyone, y'all have a wonderful week. I love you. Peace.